Taco in Homewood. Doors open up at 11. Come on by and see us. Myself, Molly, Landrum, here on site. Conrad, he's back on secret probation after some of the questionable things he said yesterday about recruiting in Alabama. So we had to leave him high atop Red Mountain. Conrad, I hope you're doing well. Sorry that you won't be joining us out here today.
Hey, actions have consequences, Pat. It is what it is.
Well, I'm glad you're learning.
Yeah, about time. I don't know why we have to keep doing this, Landrum. It's like every other week.
I feel like we're coming a long way with Conrad, though.
I just sit back and watch.
See, you're smart because you probably learned, like, from your older brother.
Oh.
Like, okay, I don't need to do what he just did.
I learned mostly of what not to do.
Yeah.
I mean, that helps with him being so much older than me. But
Do you know how to change a tire? You got to learn.
Say she didn't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We have got a busy show coming up at 10:30. Jeffrey Lee from Auburn Live, part of the On3 Network. He's going to join us, talk about the Auburn recruiting, where it currently stands for 2026. Let's just say it's not to where it was the last couple years at this juncture, but still plenty of time. We'll talk to him about that. 11 o'clock, Dan Lust is going to join the program. He's a frequent contributor to this radio show. We talked to him about all the things that's going on in the sports world when it comes to lawyering. And last week, a big story came out in which Wisconsin is suing the University of Miami. We'll get his thoughts on if this thing can go anywhere and what kind of precedents it could set. And joining us here on site at 12 noon, Nick Kelly, who covers the Alabama Crimson Tide. He will stop by. He will discuss his sit-down podcast that he had with Kalen DeBoer that you can go watch at al.com. But we start today's program kind of like where we ended it yesterday, Landrum. A lot of question marks about what Thomas Castellanos had to say yesterday, and a lot of people around college football are continuing to question his motivation and why he said what he did against Alabama.
Trying to create some buzz, I guess, about not only that he's back and Florida State, in his opinion, is back because he said, quote, I now got a squad after tearing the ACC up for the last 2 seasons, but certainly put everybody else on notice, and I think maybe some unwelcome attention for Mike Norvell and maybe Gus Malzahn in trying to erase the memory of the 2-10 season that they had just a year ago.
So Ira Schafel, who was on this radio show about a week ago, he covers the Florida State Seminoles for warchant.com, known Ira a long time, outstanding reporter, just overall good dude. He went on Sirius XM radio earlier this morning, and one of the questions they asked him was what was he thinking in regards to when he heard the comments from Thomas Castellanos about Alabama.
That was the one where I thought, okay, Tommy's feeling himself at this point in the interview. He probably got over his skis a little bit in that one. But, again, it's we want athletes nowadays, for whatever reason, to be so sanitized in what they say and not say anything that might rile the other team. And I don't know, man. I think Alabama was probably very motivated. They're going to be very motivated coming into this game. They didn't have the best season in the world last year. If they love Kalen DeBoer, they're going to want to play it great for him because, their coaching staff's a little bit on the hot seat after 1 year. Even though it's only 1 year, it's Alabama. And so, I just think about sometimes these comments, people get so worried about bulletin board material. Division I athletes at this level, I think, are plenty motivated. I don't think they're at Alabama yesterday. I don't think they were doing extra wind sprints because Tommy Castellanos said something. But at the same time, yeah, I get it. I understand why fans don't like it, especially coming off a 2-10 season. It seems pretty tone deaf.
I was just coming from the angle yesterday, and it's something that he didn't point out. It's not that you're really giving any extra motivation for Alabama. Alabama is the opening game of the season. They want to come out and they want to make a statement and try to erase the memory of a 9-4 season a year ago. I think it's more about Tommy Castellanos kind of putting a lot of pressure on himself and tooting his own horn, and that's why I think you got the responses you got from the Florida State fans on a lot of their message boards and going, okay, well, number one, it's not a good look to come out and say that now that you haven't taken a snap down here and we're in late June. But more than that, you know what? You better back it up because we're counting on you.
I couldn't agree more. I think that's why a lot of Florida State fans were kind of scratching their head a little bit. Coming off a 2-10 season, I mean, you're looking for some positive momentum. And we did not say, hey, look, this was stupid comments because this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. We know that he has got ability and that he is much better than DJU was last year for Florida State. But I guess this is the point that it's been a very long time, Landrum, that we've seen someone throw shade at the University of Alabama football team, but based on the fact that they went 9-4 last year and Nick Saban is no longer on the sideline, I think you might see a lot more people say some things, whether it's Diego Pavia later on this year or whether it's Castellanos right now in the preseason. I think that is probably the way that things are going to go now for this Alabama football team when you go 9-4.
Yeah, I think people not blood in the water, that's used a lot, and not that Alabama's in super bad shape, but from a perception standpoint, from everybody else looking to Tuscaloosa these days in college football, it is different. Let's just be honest. Nick Saban is not at the helm, not the greatest of all time that's running that program. And it's easy to say when Alabama, they judge themselves on the standard that's been set by national championships. And it's been, 5 years since you've claimed one of those, and Georgia has kind of had the mantle. And you got to go and you got to take it back. So, yeah, I think it's natural. I just wouldn't want it as a fan, as a coach, to bring that kind of attention to my team, especially after going 2-10 last year and knowing that they would have run you had they been able to afford it.
Yeah. So that's still a heavy conversation in the world of college football. And listen, we welcome it in the talking season in late June. Are you kidding me?
Great.
This is fantastic. I want to congratulate Conrad because I know Conrad was on pins and needles yesterday whether Alabama was going to be able to flip another commitment. Remember yesterday the big news was that they had flipped a player from the University of Illinois to come to Tuscaloosa, and now you're waiting with bated breath on whether the Rutgers DB was going to flip to Alabama, and he did yesterday, Conrad. So I know that you and Paige probably had a wonderful dinner last night knowing that you have got this young man in the stable ready to go in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, I know Rutgers is, they're an elite program, and so to be able to flip someone as talented as Rael Kelly from the Scarlet Knights, I think that really bodes well for the future of Alabama's recruiting outside of the state, Pat. But, no, in all seriousness, again,
where does this compare to Graham Nicholson and stealing him in the middle of the night from Miami of Ohio?
I'm going to guess he's a little cheaper than Graham Nicholson. So
you think so?
Probably. They paid good money for Nicholson from what I understand.
Did Nicholson make one single field goal worthy of his money last year?
I wouldn't be surprised if it came down that every field goal he actually made last year, he made about $100,000 off of, because he might have made, 6 field goals all year.
See, here's the personality difference. I could see this day and age Nick Saban going up to him and reminding him of how much they paid and, how much was that worth, Graham? Kalen DeBoer, that's not in his nature. He's not going to do that.
Yeah. Well, this Kelly kid that flips from Rutgers, he's a former teammate of Alabama freshman Wolf Justin Hill, also fellow Crimson Tide defensive back Cam Calhoun, a transfer from Utah, who also attended the same high school. So there's a little bit of a relationship there with the school out of Ohio. So it's pretty interesting that Alabama continues to flip these upper Midwest guys, in regards to what they're trying to do from a recruiting standpoint. We will talk Auburn recruiting coming up at the bottom of the hour, in which Jeffrey Lee is going to join the program. As of this morning, on 247, they were ranked number 70 in recruiting. Meanwhile, on the On3 board, it is 62nd. So Auburn's got a little work to do. They've only got the 5 commitments as of this moment. So we will see what happens in regards to Auburn's recruiting, Landrum, but as of right now, a little bit slow out of the gate.
Yeah, and I guess Jeffrey will kind of enlighten us on why that is, where they've been focusing their efforts. I know that they're recruiting. We're not talking about Brian Harson's staff, but where are those efforts, and is Hugh Freeze and that staff comfortable where they are right now? Because you're right, it's a stark contrast from where they were in the last couple of years. Now, granted, the roster does look different, not making excuses for Auburn, but you do have now a stockpile of SEC caliber players. Not saying they're all 5 stars, but the roster looks much different than it did in the first season when Hugh Freeze came in, and you could argue that maybe there were only 40-something SEC caliber players on it.
True. Very true. So we'll see what Jeffrey Lee has to say about this Auburn recruiting. Well, one thing's for sure, the Braves are the kryptonite when it comes to the New York Mets. If you missed it last night right here on Jox, This is the way it sounded on the Braves radio network.
2-1 pitch, and he slugs one to deep center. Sprinting back with urgency, Taylor at the wall. Goodbye! Fire in the hole for Ronald Acuna. It's his 9th homer of the year, and it's 2-0 Braves. What a shot! And the 3-1. Swung on and hit well out to left field. In line with it, Nemo makes the catch in deep left field. Tagging from third base, Olsen. He'll come home and score. Sac fly by Sean Murphy rakes in the run. It's his 22nd RBI of the year. And the 3-2. Popped up, foul ground. Riley going back down the line into foul territory. And he's got it as he slides into the tarp. Outstanding play by Austin Riley to hang a 0 up on the board here in the bottom of the 3rd. What a brilliant path that he took. And a great catch by Riley. Nemo will be taken off here. 3 balls, 2 strikes, 2 down. Here it comes. Down he goes. Swung on and missed it, a slider. Dylan Lee looked trouble right in the eye and walked right through it by striking out Soto. What a wonderful job by Dylan. And that ends the bottom of the 8th inning. 2-2. Ground ball out to second. Ozzie secures, sends it over. Braves win.
That's the way it sounded last night. Ronald Acuna Jr. homered. Spencer Schwellenbach pitched 7 strong innings. The Braves now 4-0 against the Mets this season, 27-10 since 2022. Schwellenbach is 7-0 in 12 starts against National League East opponents in his career.
How about this? Last night, Dylan Lee, and that was awesome job of striking out Soto with runners at first and third. First time the Braves have had a save. 31 games.
31 consecutive games without a save. Most since the least since 1970, 1971.
I feel better about it now. No, not really.
Well, you got Strider tonight, 2-5, 3.89 ERA. He is going against Frankie Montas, who's making his first start of the year. He is coming off the disabled list. Injured list. I'm old school. Sorry. I'm used to the DL, not the IL. But, yeah, that's going on tonight. Braves are 36-41, 10.5 games back, 6 games back in the wild card. But, man, the Mets are the elixir that the Braves needed last week and so far first part of this week. I mean, if you're the Mets, I mean, you got to be asking some serious questions about what the heck has happened over the last 2 weeks, because it was bad before they went to Atlanta and got swept, and it just has continued on.
If you're a Mets fan, do you really have to ask questions, though? To be fair.
Not against the Braves.
Well, I mean, it's not against the Braves, but they have had, you go back to when they had Scherzer, they had DeGrom, you just fill in the blank. It seemed like it was a lineup that was fit to at least be in the World Series. And they have these collapses. And I feel like the Braves are doing their best Mets this year with the roster that they have and currently sitting 5 games under 500.
Yeah.
6 games back in the wild card.
Yes.
But number 1 in my heart.
That's
all
obvious.
that matters.
Yeah,
When we have an all-star game.
that's obvious.
Got 6 Flags, Whitewater.
They still have Whitewater there?
I don't know.
I know. I don't know.
I don't know. I think they do.
Did they?
I just remember Whitewater.
They do because Paige was trying to get me to take her this weekend.
Remember when Walt Weiss's kid almost died?
Yeah.
He got E. coli there from Whitewater?
Yep, sure
If
did.
you're heading over there today, enjoy yourselves.
Well, Alabama heat and humidity can be brutal, but don't let it affect your home and family. Keep them comfortable with an affordable Trane cooling system. They've been recognized as America's most trusted brand for 11 consecutive years, and they're the official cooling partner here at Jox. So go find a comfort specialist near you at Trane.com.
Well, it was never too early to be talking about the NCAA basketball tournament, and ESPN, they have just updated their bracketology for this upcoming basketball season, and I've got some really great news for Greg Sankey. I'll tell you that good news next on Three Man Front. It is 10:18 on Jox. Welcome back in. This is Three Man Front. We're live at Social Taco. Come on by and see us. We'll be located right up top on the Taco Terrace. Doors open up at 11, but Larry from Homewood,
Hey,
he's
Larry.
already here. Larry's already here.
Air fist emoji.
Yep. Let me tell you about my friends at Artec Tractor in Jasper. They're your local family-owned dealer of Mahindra, the toughest tractors on earth. Artec has the new groundbreaking 1100 and 2100 series compact tractors, and now with 0% financing for 84 months plus $2,000 cash back, and there's no reason to wait to make all this happen. Stop by Artec Tractor in Jasper for a test drive or see their complete inventory at artectractor.com. Mahindra Tractors outworking the field. Well, it doesn't take long, Landrum, before you start looking at March Madness and the bracketologists at ESPN. And I've got good news for Greg Sankey. According to the latest June bracketology, the SEC will have 14 teams back in the NCAA tournament again. 14. Just like it was last year.
Is South Carolina one of them?
South Carolina is not one of them.
They would have been if they'd have gotten old Eagle, what's his name?
Eagle staff?
Yeah, the guy that scored 100 against Alabama this year. Number one is Florida. They're the top overall seed. Tennessee, the number 2 seed. You've got one number 3 in Kentucky. Auburn is a 4 seed. Nice little rebuild.
I like rebound.
Yeah. At number 5, Alabama. Arkansas is a 5. Number 7, Missouri. Number 8, Vandy. 8, Mississippi State. 8, Oklahoma. Texas at 9. Ole Miss and Georgia would be a 10 seed. And Buckyball gets the last bid in, Conrad, at number 11. One of the last 4 teams in. So Buckyball gets in.
I'll go ahead and put my vacation time in.
So,
What do you do on those trips, by the way?
Well, somebody's got to stay and, clean the house while Bucky's gone. House doesn't take care of itself, Landrum. Come on.
You're right.
So this is not good news for the defending baseball national champions, their athletic department at LSU, because them and South Carolina would be the 2 SEC teams not making the tournament. And if this is indeed the way it's going to work out, I can go ahead and tell you that LSU will be making a change.
Yes, they will.
At the head basketball coaching position, if that indeed comes to fruition.
It
and
seems
so will
like
South Carolina.
Is it fair to think, just based on the lack of moves and what they haven't done around that basketball program in the last couple of years, that they're admitting maybe internally, all right, maybe this wasn't the best fit. It was the best guy we could find at the time. We're going to really dump a lot of resources and be really serious about basketball after we can afford to get rid of him.
Last 4 buys, Georgia and Ole Miss is in that category. Last 4 in, as I mentioned, Texas A&M. Next 4 out after the first 4 out, Molly, is Nebraska.
Hey, at least we're on there. I just like to see our name somewhere.
First 4 out was Marquette, Indiana, Washington, Clemson. Then the next 4 out after that is Nebraska, Kansas State, Villanova, and Northwestern.
It's a rebuilding year.
Is it? Ever since the, what's his name? What was the guy that used his name on the?
Oh, Keisei Tominaga.
Yeah, Tominaga.
Yeah.
Tell you what, Miami, that's
interesting.
interesting, considering how dreadfully awful they were last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They've got Texas A&M playing SMU in the first round, in the first 4.
I like the Aggies in that one.
Is this an expanded 76-team field, Pat, or is it just 68?
No, this is still the 68, not until we get a full official. SEC would have 14 teams, Big Ten 11, Big 12 8, ACC 6, and the Big East 3.
ACC with 6.
That's good news for you, though, Molly, because if they do expand this year, then Nebraska will be in the tournament. It's set
You know
in
what? That's a
stone.
good point.
Doesn't matter how you get there as long as you get in.
Hey, as long as we get in, I'm okay with it.
It's just crazy trying to put this stuff. I mean, I guess the same thing can be said for those that's trying to put together college football playoff, models for this upcoming season.
Yeah.
But to sit here on June 24th and to come out with men's bracketology.
Is all right, are we at the point as Alabama, Auburn basketball fans, every single year, Sweet 16 or bust?
I was going to say Elite Eight.
I think it's got to the point where it's Elite 8.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you?
I think Sweet 16. I mean, just to be able to win 2 games in the tournament, we've seen a lot of good teams fail to do that. I think Sweet 16 or bust. But you guys go Elite 8 if you want to. I would think now Sweet 16. That should be the minimum for Bruce Pearl and Nate Oates every year.
I think it also depends on who you lose to, perhaps. Like I think this year, for example, for Alabama, not making a Final Four was a disappointment, but losing to Duke, you're kind of like, okay, it is what it is.
I think the amount of money that you're paying both Nate Oates and Bruce Pearl, it's expected to be an Elite 8 at the least.
That's fair.
Well, and they've shown they can both do it multiple times now.
I mean, it's like, Kalen DeBoer. I mean, you hired Kalen DeBoer and you paid him all this money not to go 9-4 and beat Auburn. You paid him all that money to get in the college football playoff. And I think those two guys, they've raised the bar so high for their programs. If you get to the Sweet 16 and lose, that is going to be considered a failure.
Yeah. I just – and maybe it is Elite 8 for some fans. For me, I think Sweet 16 – because we saw Wimp take, how many Sweet 16s? 5?
Mm-hmm.
That
Never
he
could
was
get
able
over
to
the
make.
hump.
A lot of elite coaches and coaches that were outstanding at their programs and still are, winning 3 games in that tournament is really, really tough, even for the elite teams when they have an off night, because everybody at that point is playing really good basketball.
Yeah, very much so. We are live at Social Taco. Come on by and see us. The mayor has arrived, Don. Yeah, he's doing a little work here.
Is he in
at
better
Social
mood than he was
Taco.
this morning, Pat?
No, he seems to be. He's wearing his Vegas.
He was in the doldrums this morning.
I'm
It was
going to
bad.
Vegas, maybe stop by Florida.
Why was he in the doldrums? Because Auburn doesn't have
Shirt.
any players for 2026?
Yeah, Pat, it's Panic on the Plains. That's what I've named it.
Panic on the Plains. Is that what they're calling it now? Yes. Wow. Need to up your NIL there, Don. You wouldn't have this problem. Transfer portal.
Maybe they're just
Lane
waiting
Kiffin.
for everybody to commit and find a home, and then they just go and they just try to just up it by $1.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the new approach for Hugh Freeze.
There's
$1.
no doubt.
Yeah. Just go prices right on them.
Just don't go over. You can go under. Just don't go over. Don't bust.
Yeah.
1-800-239-WJOX, the courtesy GMC text line 205-834-9450. When we come back, Jeffrey Lee will join us from On3's Auburn site, Auburn Live. He'll give us the very latest of what's going on with Auburn recruiting. This is Jox.
Welcome back. It's a Tuesday edition. Woo, it's a little balmy outside, Pat.
It is.
It feels like it's 97.
Eee.
Today is a perfect day for us to go and get in the fountain. We're live here at Social Taco in the square in Homewood next to City Hall. And a very good friend, just a good old dude. Jeffrey Lee, senior recruiting editor of Auburn Live on 3, here to tell us if the sky is truly falling for Hugh Freeze and the Tigers. Jeffrey, how are you today?
Just another day on the plains, you know.
I bet it's cool down there. You guys get that nice breeze coming across the plains.
Yeah. Well, it's being all tempered by the rising frustration of the fan base.
Yeah, I can imagine. Let's start there. I have a couple of deep commitments. It was not a big class that was in there for the 26 recruiting class. What can you tell us? Is the panic button by Auburn fans being hit too early?
Of course it is. Now, I understand it. I get it, the frustration. But if you had me on a year ago at this time, we would have been talking about the same thing. Auburn's the June, the weekend before the dead period. Auburn's not bringing in any official visitors. People were freaking out. I think the difference between this year and last year is the lack of ammunition Auburn has to sell. You know, last year you're still selling the future. You're still selling the hope. You're still selling early playing time because everybody has money. This year you don't have that. You've got a roster full of stacked freshmen and sophomores, so you're not able to sell early playing time. You don't have much of a winning resume to sell, so it's your holster's not as stacked as it was before. So you've got to be patient, and you've got to be able to sell, wins. You've got to be able to sell upward trajectory, something that Auburn doesn't have at this point.
Jeffrey, in regards to the ones that have flipped over the last couple of weeks, was any of them really a big surprise? Was it something that you heard from people around the program that, that one hurt? Or is it just the fact that this is the nature of the business now and you just are going to expect guys are going to commit and then they're going to decommit and possibly circle back and you might get them recommitted back to Auburn?
Yeah, I think the one that wasn't surprised, we were expecting for months leading up to it, was JaMychal Garrett, the four-star linebacker from he was originally from Gulf Shores, not even from Oxford, but he was at Gulf Shores. He's now in Louisiana, but he was kind of a Josh Aldridge recruit, and we kind of saw the mutual parting of ways, if you will, coming with him. So nobody was surprised by JaMychal Garrett decommitting. I think the biggest surprise was Shadarius Tootle, the four-star linebacker from Mobile. You've got DJ Durkin on him, which a lot of people have confidence in DJ Durkin and being able to recruit and identify and keep recruits committed. He went to Georgia 3 weeks ago and came out with, it was a first for me. He was committed to Auburn, but said Georgia was number one. But he still had an official visit to Auburn left to take, and he took that last weekend. And when he left, he said all the right things. Hey, Auburn's back on top. I feel good about it. He even told us off the record, listen, man, I'm going to shut my recruitment down. I'm sticking with Auburn. I'm going to do it next week around the 19th. Well, that didn't happen, and lo and behold, he actually went to Georgia this past weekend, made a little rendezvous trip to Athens, and they pretty much sealed the deal there. He flipped. That one, I think, hurt. He'd been committed to Auburn for nearly a year. I think he was a Big Cat commitment last year. So that one hurt. Devin Carter was the same thing. He visited Florida State, and everybody's got him going to Florida State because his dad was there, a legacy recruit there back in the late 80s. But he visited Auburn the same weekend as Tootle last weekend and left there saying, oh, man, this is home. I'm locked in. Well, 5 days later, he's flipping to Florida State. So I think those two hurt. I don't think the JaMychal Garrett hurt, but those two certainly hurt, and were two guys that Auburn wanted to keep in the boat.
How much impact, Jeffrey, if any, has the ruling finally come down on revenue sharing and NIL? Because we know that Auburn and Hugh Freeze said that they were committed to, 20.5, 21 plus when it took effect. Have you seen any of that playing out in real time here in the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, absolutely. Auburn's taking and even Sadarian Morgan, he's a five-star wide receiver from Benjamin Russell. I thought it was very eye-opening what he said. And I've taken it upon myself. I I'm ready to act like, I think reporters have tried to act like NIL doesn't exist, like maybe it's none of our business to be asking these questions. I threw all that to the curb last weekend, and I started asking these guys point blank, man, what are they saying NIL-wise? What are they saying revenue-sharing-wise? Where does Auburn stack up with other offers, other schools? And Sedarian Morgan and Devin Carter, to an extent, said the same thing. Like, Auburn was not able to give me any numbers. I thought that was very interesting. But I also felt like what he said next was even more interesting. He said Auburn would come to me in December, and they would have a better idea of what they can offer. And I thought, well, that lines up with kind of what Hugh Freeze has done in the past. Like I said, last year at this time, it was very slow. Auburn fans were freaking out, and then gradually Auburn picks up a commitment from Alvin Henderson. They flip it from Penn State. They get Eric Winters from Georgia, and then throughout the season they're just picking up guys and they're adding, and they finish with a top 10 class. And I really feel like I to this point really feel that way. I feel Auburn's still in a good position. The only thing they have to do is win. I think it's more important now than ever that they're going to have to show that they're either on the Florida trajectory, where you've got, Billy Napier losing season. In his third season, he wins 8. And now look at him now. He's got a top 5 class, a lot of buzz around that program. He's picking up commitments left and right. Another trajectory you can look at is Eli Drinkowitz at Missouri. He had a losing season, and in his 4th season, he's winning 11 games. His 5th season, he's winning 10 games. You've got to convince guys that you're on one of those two trajectories. You're either going to win 8 this year and be on that double-digit win cycle. From there on out, you're a playoff contender. So I think the proof is in the pudding for Auburn this year, more so important-wise than ever.
Jeffrey, I am curious because last year they had 26 incoming freshmen, the Auburn roster did. They followed that up by having 19 transfers. Do you anticipate that would basically kind of be the same ratio you're looking at potentially for the 2026 class, or it's too early to tell right now?
Yeah, well, I don't think it's going to be as big of a high school class as we've seen the past 2 classes. I think it could be 20. I think it could be even less than that. It just depends on what they're going to do with the transfer portal and how they're going to work that. I think this revenue sharing is going to be a big deal in that. How are you going to allocate these funds with the NIL? You've got NIL funds. You've got revenue sharing funds. I know that some schools around the SEC, they're using all their NIL funds on their roster. So they're getting deals for their players. They're signing players. Their retention for their roster is coming from NIL. And they're going to use that revenue sharing, that 15.5. I think they're 75% of the 20 is 15.5. Don't quote me on that. I didn't do well in math. Cheated off of Brandon Vernon mostly. But they're going to use that revenue sharing for the recruiting class. And I think that's what Auburn would like to do, and that's why you're hearing Sedarian Morgan say, hey, Auburn, as far as the revenue sharing, can't give me a number right now. I know this from talking to 3 people at least over the past 24 hours, guys that are absolutely connected and know what the hell they're talking about. Auburn does not want to make promises that they can't keep right now. They would rather wait and see what it looks like in late November, early December before signing day. See if they can't make late moves on this guy. By that time, they will either have won or be facing another losing season. I really feel like if everything goes well, Auburn should be able to win at least 8 games. They'll be in a much better position later in the season to be able to pitch these numbers, to make some moves late, to get some flips late, and finish out with a good class.
We continue to hang out with our friend Jeffrey Lee, senior recruiting editor there at On3 Auburn Live. Joining us as all of our guests do on the Higginbotham Hotline. Expectations here in the coming weeks, maybe the next month. Auburn fans like Don, who I know that you know, who is up here at Social Taco with us, anxiously anticipating. They just need some good, positive news. When can we expect maybe another commitment or 2?
Oh, they're coming. Listen, even with all the strife and the lack of numbers when it comes to revenue sharing, Auburn's going to get guys. They're going to get guys. I think they're going to add some commitments before the season starts. I think Auburn could add 7-8 commitments. I'm looking at Jox Wilkes, the 4-star linebacker from Wadley. I'm looking at Adam Balagoon Ali, a four-star linebacker from Florida. Jace Matthews, who's a borderline five-star wide receiver from Mississippi. I think Auburn's in a very good spot with him. Claude Puma, Wilson Zier, four-star offensive lineman. One from Illinois, one from Georgia. There's a lot of guys that I like where Auburn sits right now. Even Kentrell White, kind of an unheard of. He's an unranked guy from Atlanta. I think he's going to be on the commitment list soon. So there's some guys that Auburn's going to have commitments. They're not going to be, whatever they are right now, top 50 recruiting class. They won't be there long.
That is Jeffrey Lee. Does an outstanding job covering the Auburn Tigers on the On3 Auburn Live site. Jeffrey, always appreciate it. We'll calm the waters. We'll tell everybody to calm down. That it's just summertime. There's a lot of runway left, right? So
absolutely.
All right, Jeffrey. Hey, thanks, man. Have a great rest of the summer. We'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate you having me on.
Thanks, Jeffrey. That's Jeffrey Lee joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. All of our guests join us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services. Interesting what Jeffrey had to say, calming things down from the Auburn perspective. So we will get into that a little bit more in regards to what he had to say. Also, EA Sports has just released their toughest places in their video game in college football. So we'll get into that as well.
Yeah, if you're looking for a pontoon boat this summer, Poorhouse Branch Marina at Smith Lake is the only dealer on the lake to have the Avalon pontoons. Avalon pontoons, known for their luxury, comfort, and performance. You pair it with the most fuel-efficient engine on the water from Honda Marine, you got a winner. Poorhouse Branch Marina at Smith Lake also has the Tahoe pontoons ready for family fun. Get it today with the in-house financing. See it all at PoorhouseBranchMarina.com.
PG has arrived. Some other callers as well. Come on up and see us. We are live here at Social Taco in Homewood. This is Jox. It's 10:45 here on Jox. Welcome back in. This is Three-Man Front. We're just talking about Auburn's recruiting. Auburn, literally just moments ago, they have just released that for the third consecutive football season, Auburn has sold out of its public season tickets, matching last year's record of 63,500 tickets purchased. Auburn Athletics announced Tuesday that that number is once again eclipsing a sellout. The sellout was achieved during the exclusive Tigers Unlimited purchasing window, and no inventory remained for the general public on sale.
John Cohen, he loves seeing that for sure. Every school in college football would love to see that, but that's good news. But that brings with it expectations and people paying that money and taking the time to go to stadiums this fall. They expect wins, and I think that Hugh Freeze, he knows that. So you got to improve. What does that number look like? Potentially, I think it needs to be better than 8-4.
I agree.
I keep hearing the 8-4, and I guess compared to a 6-win season and going 6-7 in your first year, then 5-7 last year, 8 wins would be significant in playing the schedule that they're playing. But given the roster that they have and kind of comparing and contrasting, I think that number should be 9.
What if you go 8-4 with the win over Georgia? Does that or something
that probably
like that?
helps, yeah, Conrad.
Okay.
But is that loss to Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt again?
Fair, yeah.
Do you sleepwalk and lose to a dreadfully bad Kentucky team?
I just can't see that happening.
Then they kind of that Georgia win. Well, let me ask you, that Georgia win that Alabama had early in the season,
Oh, it meant a lot.
did that erase the Norman, Oklahoma?
Oh, no, it did not.
Well, there you go. So, but to your point, yes, a win over Georgia or both Alabama, that would certainly help. But
I guess more
Who are those
from the
losses to?
recruiting standpoint, right, of showing, hey,
Right.
we can finally beat those teams.
Yeah. After all these spring storms, you need to think about your roof. Seriously, folks, amazing what kind of damage can be done because of these heavy rains and wind that we experience. And that's why you need to call Abide Roofing today, 205-922-7134. Travis Lloyd and his local roofing team. They're ready to help you. Go to their website, abideroof.com. They're going to give you this free roof inspection. There's no strings attached. There's no pressure. They just want to give you an honest look at what's going on up on top of your roof and assess the issues. Whether it's loose shingles, they can fix those easily. If it's a whole new roof replacement like I had to have, they could take care of that as well. I trust these guys 100%. You should too. They're licensed, bonded, insured. They're the real deal. That is Abide Roofing. Call them today, 205-922-7134, or go to their website, abideroof.com. Meanwhile, EA Sports, just like they did last year, they have been slowly releasing some information about this year's game, Molly. And so now they have just released the toughest places to play, according to EA Football Sports.
Yeah, and just for funsies, I have the new one that they just released, and I also have last year's, so that we can kind of compare and contrast some movement that we might see. So the number 1 team, the toughest place to play according to EA, just what do you think it is?
I would say, just off the top of my head, would say Tiger Stadium in Baton Rouge. That would be mine.
Yeah, Death Valley. Yeah.
Death Valley.
Well, you would be correct because it is LSU at number 1. Number 2 is Penn State. Beaver Stadium.
Oh, okay.
Sure.
3 is Ohio Stadium, obviously Ohio State. Number 4 is Sanford Stadium, Georgia. Number 5,
What?
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Stop. Just stop.
Georgia's
there.
number 4.
This is a bogus list.
number 5, Alabama, Bryant Denny.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, okay.
So that's your top 5.
All right, do you have last year's?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Where was Auburn? I remember we had this discussion last summer at this time because Auburn did not get
Auburn
any
was
love
at like
whatsoever.
16 or 17?
They were
Yeah.
number 14.
All right,
Okay.
so they were 14
Yes.
Some tells them based on last year they didn't get bumped up.
They are 17.
this year.
Yes.
No disrespect, Georgia fans, they would admit that. Georgia at number 4, give me a break.
I have never, ever heard the Georgia Sanford Stadium as being one of the toughest places to play in the conference.
It's a great time. It's awesome in the quad. It's a cool tailgate.
I
It's
would
a fun
put Kyle
Saturday.
Field at Texas A&M ahead of Georgia's Sanford Stadium.
Well,
Absolutely.
last year,
I'd put Neyland Stadium ahead of,
Oh,
of
yeah.
Sanford Stadium.
Last year, Sanford was at 5, and Kyle Field was at number 1.
I would put Williams
Kyle
Bryce
Field was number 1
above.
last
Yeah,
year?
so A&M isn't even in the top 5 anymore.
They must not have yelled as much this last year.
I don't even
Williams
think
Bryce
they're
at
in the-
night, I would put above Sanford Stadium.
I was about
Yeah, I
to
mean,
say, Stanford's not even in the top 5 most difficult SEC places.
Yeah, I mean, you got the sandstorm going and those folks going crazy.
Yeah.
So Kyle Field went from number 1 to number 11.
See, I need an explanation for that.
Yeah,
I'm
how-
not,
how are
I'm
they
not
ranking
saying that
these?
from you. I'm
No,
just saying,
yeah.
from the
Like I said,
I'm blaming you, Molly.
this is from EA. This is not.
it's Big Ten bias.
Molly, why did you make
exactly
this
what
list?
it is.
I did
Are
not
you
make
reading
this-
these in reverse order?
I know,
Are these
I am.
descending?
No, I'm kidding.
Where's Nebraska on that list?
They're not on here, but that's okay.
Let me ask you a question.
We'll prove them wrong. Yes.
So, as you were on the sideline for your 4 years at Nebraska, what was the loudest you can remember off the top of your head? Which
Michigan
game?
2021.
Okay. Makes sense.
It's like early October. I think Michigan was like 5-0 going to that game. They were top 5 in the country. And that was one that a lot of people picked as like the upset of the week. Obviously that didn't happen. It was another 1-score loss.
Of course it was.
Yeah. So, not shocking.
I probably took Nebraska in the upset that game.
Yeah, most people did.
They have burned me so many times.
Oh, me too.
All right, so recapping, this year Tiger Stadium should have been number 1 last year.
Yeah.
Yes. Last year Tiger Stadium was number 3.
Who
So
was
they moved-
2 last year?
Alabama. So Alabama went from number 2 to number 5.
I'll never forget before Nick Saban got there, Alabama, that was one of the least in the Southeastern Conference.
Yeah.
I mean, people would literally not get up and cheer at
It
all.
would be the equivalent of going to a Texas men's basketball game.
Pretty much. Pretty much. Or, unfortunately, the way the Golden 100 has become at UAB basketball. Just don't show up or stay underneath and have hors d'oeuvres and drink your wine and, oh, yeah, there's a basketball game going on. Let me go out there and see what's going on.
Now, I will say, I think EA did an update kind of like before the season started after the game was released. So they did do some switching around. But
So these are just the most challenging on the game.
yes.
But I would think that you would want that to mimic real life, right?
I'm right there with
Right,
you.
yeah.
Yeah.
So when you play the game, Conrad, because you stay up late at night and get on these
Put on your
websites
uniform.
and you play these games.
Video time with people in the Philippines.
Yeah.
Hey, that's Pat too.
No, that was just when we didn't have NFL.
What was that? What was that young man's name? Lupe? What was
I
it?
forgot his name. It was in Guatemala, I think. Was it Guatemala? Where was it?
But yeah, I think so. That sounds right.
Yeah.
We're in the
I don't
right
know,
region.
What'd you call him? Lupe? That's what you-
Lupe, why are you talking to the strange men?
What game was that? A Florida State
The
game?
one with
What
the
game
beard
was
has
that?
his shirt off.
No, that was the Florida State. Was it the Florida State? No, it wasn't the Georgia State
It wasn't
game,
the
was it?
first game, but it was like one of the early season Florida
so
State games.
awkward, y'all. You two guys are tuning in, and then there's this kid from Guatemala.
He was doing a service, and it
He
was much
doing a
appreciated.
service. And we appreciate that greatly, what he was doing.
Okay, what about the game, Pat?
So my question is, when you're playing the game, and I know that's one of many that goes in the quotient of when you're playing, just like weather conditions and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So how much does that mean, like when you were playing the game and you're going to play LSU at Tiger Stadium as opposed to playing Clemson at their Death Valley?
So if you've ever played Madden or one of the college football games, you know how before you snap the ball, you can press a button and it essentially shows you all the routes. Like this button will be the X receiver, this button's the Y, that kind of thing. So you can kind of figure out what you're going to do beforehand in case you forget the play call. Well, when you go and play somewhere like Tiger Stadium, it makes the screen shake real bad, and so you can't see that stuff. And so
That's
it makes
cool.
it so you have to memorize what plays you called, and like if you try to kick a field goal, it's significantly harder to kick a field goal and be accurate. So things like that, like just like you would have in a normal game, right? It's harder to do fundamental things.
All right, so let me ask you, Conrad, coming in at number 8 on the list is the Gaylord Family Oklahoma Memorial Stadium in Norman, Oklahoma.
Put it at number 1, Pat.
Was
Yeah.
that why Alabama lost to the Sooners?
Yes,
is that
put
why?
it at number 1. Definitely
Wow.
harder than Sanford.
What about
Come
First
on.
Bank Stadium there in Nashville?
I didn't see Vandy make the list.
I don't think they're on there.
All right, coming up next on the three-man front, we've already got a great crowd assembled here at the Taco Terrace. Come on by and see us. Doors are officially opened up in about 4 minutes from now. Dan Lust is going to join us, outstanding sports attorney. Give us the latest on Wisconsin versus Miami. That's right, the University of Wisconsin suing Miami over a football player. We'll get into that next on Three Man Front. Welcome back. It's hour number 2. We're live at Social Taco. This is Three-Man Front on Jox. Pat Landrum, Molly Conrad with you until 2 o'clock. Joining us on the Higginbotham hotline now is the guy that we go to when there are questions in regards to legalities in college sports. He's an outstanding sports attorney. Dan Less joins us now on Three-Man Front. Dan, I hope the spring and summer has been good for you, and I know it's a busy time to be a lawyer, especially in your line of work.
Yeah, everything's been good. It's nice and hot over here. And then I think to that point, it's kind of nice to be in New York, removed from some of these bitter college sports rivalries. So I can sit on, I can be Switzerland right now and just tell you my honest thoughts on this case.
All right, so let's talk about this story that came out last week, that the University of Wisconsin and its Name, Image, and Likeness Collective, they are suing the University of Miami, allegedly interfering with a binding revenue-sharing contract between Wisconsin and their cornerback, Xavier Lucas. What can you tell us about this? How surprised were you? And do you think this thing has legs?
A couple things. So, I certainly wasn't surprised given the fireworks that happened in January. Just for some context, right? After the portal had closed, there's been some pretty public statements from legal representation from Lucas, and Wisconsin and the Big Ten. So Wisconsin had, for lack of a better term, they threatened this case. So I don't think anyone could sit back today in June, 5 months later, and say this is a complete shock. Now, is it somewhat of a shock that Wisconsin followed through? Maybe, but it's Wisconsin against Miami, and Wisconsin put their foot, on the proverbial line, and they said we are going to file a lawsuit. So I'll save my commentary. I'm sure we have more to talk about here, but the fact that Wisconsin followed through should tell you that they felt the case was stronger upon further investigation. So that's my big takeaway. When I saw this, I said, well, Wisconsin must think their case, right? They might have hopes and prayers and think they'll find some investigation and some discovery to make their case strong. Or else they wouldn't be moving ahead with it. They would hope the story fades to the background, which many cases do. Many people threaten to file a lawsuit and they don't. So the fact that Wisconsin came to the table, they filed a lawsuit, which is very precedential in what it's trying to accomplish, I think that's newsworthy in and of itself.
Dan, and we heard from the Wisconsin side that it was all about precedent and setting a precedent. And I'm just wondering, with the other school involved, Miami, is this a case where Miami has been involved in a lot of this from what you hear with other recruits in different schools, or does it just happen to be Miami in this instance?
Yeah, this is a unique situation. This Xavier Lucas, the player involved, happens to be a South Florida kid and was recruited by Miami originally. So this is somewhat of an odd circumstance. Wisconsin's alleging that Miami used improper means to get him to come to the school and talk to him at a time where that was impermissible since the player transferred outside of the portal. If you ask Lucas, what I'm sure he would say is, I didn't need to speak to anybody. Miami recruited me. I'm from South Florida. I know 100 people on the team, and I'm a big recruit. And so once I stepped foot on campus, I didn't need to clear it with anybody. I was always going to try to walk onto the team. So I think this is a unique example. And to your question, I think this happens across the country. It just doesn't happen in such a loud fashion where a player transfers or attempts to transfer outside of the portal, outside of permissible means. So Wisconsin, felt that they had to send a message, and I think there are schools and programs around the college sports world that are rooting for Wisconsin here because of this exploitation that is being done of the portal if this is not closed up.
Talking to Dan Lest, a famous sports attorney, joins us here on Three-Man Front, talking about the University of Wisconsin, its Name, Image, and Likeness Collective suing the University of Miami, allegedly interfering with a binding agreement with one of their student athletes. So how surprised were you that the Big Ten Conference, they went all in for one of their member institutions, because the Big Ten is all about Wisconsin, hoping that they can get some type of relief or at least have Miami admit for their faults?
Yeah, it's interesting. You could certainly see a situation where he transferred from, Wisconsin to Ohio State, and that would have put the Big Ten in a very precarious situation. So we don't have to deal with this here. It's Big Ten versus ACC. So I'm not surprised that the Big Ten stepped up in that sense. And I'll double down. This revenue share agreement that allegedly, I don't want to even say allegedly, that seems to be signed by Xavier Lucas, was a document that by all intents and purposes the Big Ten had shared with their member institutions across the conference. So there will be at some point an argument from Xavier Lucas, and I don't want to say Lucas, but really Miami here, that this contract that was signed by Lucas is a revenue sharing contract that is not enforceable until July 1st when the House settlement says it is. And if that's the basis for a contract being cautiously interfered with, that contract wasn't enforceable. So the Big Ten has to stand by that contract because that was a contract that they helped put together. So that's a pretty interesting legal argument, right? When this alleged tampering occurred, the House versus NCAA case had not yet been approved. So how can a contract that only becomes valid with the House versus NCAA case being approved, if this incident of alleged tampering occurred beforehand, do we even have a valid and binding contract? So in that sense, I'm not surprised that the Big Ten is standing with them. The academic in me would have loved to have seen what the Big Ten would have done had it been to Big Ten schools, but, we don't get quite there.
All right, did I read this correctly, Dan, that the University of Wisconsin is not pursuing legal action against Lucas, the player, but only the University of Miami?
Correct. You want to ask me why? I have some thoughts on it.
Yes, please. Why?
Well, it's to cautiously interfere with the contract, right? And that's the gist of what's being alleged here, right? There's a contract between Party A and Party B. Here would be Xavier Lucas in Wisconsin, and Party C, which is here Miami, injects himself in a way that causes that contract to be terminated between A and B. The only way that you can have tortious interference with a contract is if you have a valid contract between person A and person B. So I could sit here today and say there's a pretty if Wisconsin thinks they have a good case against Miami, they should think they have a good case against Lucas. That would be a breach of contract, a pretty simple case. So the reason for not including him doesn't appear to be one that is legal. It appears to be one that is very much grounded in college football. That Wisconsin doesn't want to set a precedent by being the first school to sue a player for breach of contract. That could potentially be disastrous in the transfer portal, for high school recruits. And I think they're trying to get ahead of that argument. So I think assuming that's what they're doing, I think it's pretty smart. And they can certainly send a very loud message, hey, don't tamper with our players without actually suing the player involved.
Dan, does this thing ever make a courtroom? Because I could see a great opportunity for a attorney cross-examining maybe a witness and then someone throwing out that they object because you're badgering that witness. Does this thing get into a courtroom at any point?
Did you intend to use that badgering pun? That was a great pun usage there.
I did, actually.
That was great.
I've been
that
sitting
was really
on it
good.
for 10 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was a big nerd moment for me. I really enjoyed that. Okay, anyway, moving on.
Hey, Dan, feel free to use it, okay?
Yes.
Feel free to use it.
Yeah, I'm 100% going to steal that. No, so, I always preface this. When you have a big lawsuit like this, what you're going to have, Miami is instantaneously going to file a motion to dismiss. They're going to say the contract wasn't valid. They're going to say any number of things, and they're going to try to get the case kicked out. If Wisconsin can survive those initial motions to dismiss, which I almost a virtual certainty that they occur, then this case is very much what we would call a factual issue, right? Was there a binding contract? And once you get past that initial hurdle, and the judge, if the judge denies the motions to dismiss, we'll look at what the judge's decision would be. But generally, that would say, hey, there's a real factual issue. We need to go through discovery. We need to take depositions. We need to see what conversations were had. And that's pretty dangerous if you're Miami. Because then, right, you're trying to figure out what boosters did he speak to, which coaches did he speak to. And those conversations are all impermissible. So we'll see if the NCAA has any teeth, right? They really haven't elected to punish any of these schools for actions that are of this magnitude. I know Wisconsin got dinged recently for improper contact with their recruit. But, that's not at the highest levels and not on a case like this. So Miami, I think, is going to fight back. They're going to say Wisconsin did a lot of bad things, say the contract's not valid. So, at this stage, you can't really put a money line on it, right, so to speak. You guys know I'm a gambling guy. I think you could toss it up as a minus 110 at this stage. It's a total crapshoot right now.
That is Dan Lust. Always appreciate your time, Dan, kind of giving us the insight on what's going on in the legal profession. Unfortunately, for those of us in Sports Talk Radio, we've kind of dabbled in your line of work because with everything from the House settlement and everything else going on, we've kind of had to go to night classes and almost get our law degree based on all this stuff that we have to cover on a daily basis. So we really appreciate it.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say, I hope this thing clears up. I know it's good for me, that more lawsuits are involved, but as a college sports guy, and I love the sport, I think we need to have some rules in place. I think we can't have lawsuits across the country in different states, different judges opining on college sports. I think the powers that be in the college sports world have to sit down and figure this out, and the schools I think have to agree to some type of rules. But this is untenable what we have right now.
There's no doubt about it. Dan, always a pleasure, my friend. Take care, and we'll talk to you soon.
My pleasure. Anytime.
Thanks. He joined us on the Higginbotham Hotline. All of our guests join us on that Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services.
So the big takeaway is what Dan Lutz just told us. We will discuss it, and we'll let you react as well on the Jox text line, 205-834-9450. The crowd is coming in. You are welcome as well. The doors are open. Social Taco here in Homewood on a Tuesday on Jox.
Great conversation with Dan Lust. We were breaking down the University of Wisconsin suing the University of Miami. We'll get into a little bit about what he was telling us in regards to this being a precedent. The Big Ten is all about Wisconsin going after Miami. So we will continue that conversation as we will roll along on this Tuesday.
As consumers, we've all had those bad customer service experiences. Unfortunately, we have to deal with them from time to time. But that doesn't include everybody in the customer service business, including our friends at Dobbs Ford. tell you about them all the time. It's Rachel and Joey Goshen, the managing partners, the husband and wife, but it's truly a family environment once you step onto the lot there on Parkway East. You got to check it out. It's Alabama's largest showroom selection, but you're just going to get wonderful people that have your best interest at heart, whether you ever buy a car, truck, or SUV from our friends at Dobbs Ford. Right now, you're going to get Ford employee pricing. You pay what the Ford employees pay, and 90 days until your first payment. Do what so many others have done, including my little sister. She got the Expedition about a month ago. F-150s, ask about the Dobbs Edition. They soup them up, make them look real, real fancy. The Mustangs, the Broncos Sports, the Explorers. Check them out, DobbsFordBirmingham.com. They'll beat any competitor's price. DobbsFordBirmingham.com. Go see and feel the difference, and always tell them Landrum from Jox sent you.
We will get to your phone calls momentarily at 1-800-239-WJOX, the Courtesy GMC text line as well, 205-834-9450. What's so interesting about this case to me, Landrum, is that they're not pursuing legal action against the player, whose name is Xavier Lucas, but they are going after Miami. So just a brief timeline of what this case has to do with in regards to why Wisconsin's ticked off. Okay, so Lucas was a freshman DB. He registered 18 tackles, 1 interception, 1 sack. He signed a 2-year NIL deal on December 2nd. So remember that date, December 2nd of last year. 2 weeks later, on December 19th, after signing the 2-year contract, he wrote on X that he was going to transfer from Wisconsin. So you sign a deal, 2 weeks later, you're leaving. Now, according to Wisconsin in this lawsuit, they say that a Miami coach and prominent alumnus visited Lucas at his Florida home and one of his relatives in December. Wisconsin says it received information about the in-home visit from a relative of Lucas on December 18th. So they get the information on December 18th. Then on December 19th, Lucas says he's going in the transfer portal. But on December 2nd, he signed a 2-year contract. So Wisconsin also accused Miami of a broader culture of tampering, alleging that Miami went after a second-year player, even though that player made a written commitment to another school, a commitment that was reflected in the transfer portal. The player was not identified by the name. So not only are they saying that you went and got Xavier Lucas, who signed a 2-year deal with us, but you also went and recruited another Wisconsin player who got into the transfer portal, but that player did not end up at Miami. He ended up somewhere else.
That's why I asked Dan Luss when he was on, is this specific to just Miami? Because we've heard about Miami and other instances and stuff that we haven't even reported on the air, but he was right in his response. This is more about this is going on everywhere and maybe trying to make an example out of Miami. And I don't blame Wisconsin not for going after the player. There's not a whole lot of redeeming value in going after an 18, 19-year-old kid, and we don't know all of the personal factors that went into him going back home, his family situation, what's going on. But I found it very interesting. You said that a family member actually notified Wisconsin. Do you not find that fascinating?
I do find it fascinating.
Just the dynamic of where does that family member fit into
the grand scheme
the
of
grand
maybe
scheme of
getting
things,
paid money?
And maybe what role did they have in him initially going to Wisconsin?
And see, that's what's so interesting about the timeline. So December 2nd, he signs the 2-year deal, and then all of a sudden on December 18th, Wisconsin is told by a relative of Lucas that Miami has been in contact, and they visited him at his house. Then on December 19th, the very next day after Wisconsin got the information, he decides to go on X and say he's leaving Wisconsin. Now, what Wisconsin did is once he submitted paperwork, they denied his paperwork. They said, we are not filing a transfer portal paperwork for you. So then what Lucas did was he withdrew from the school in mid-January, and then he immediately enrolled at Miami. So,
loophole.
Exactly. Now, Wisconsin is seeking damages for the financial and reputational harm it has experienced, a declaration that Miami's conduct and Lucas's constituted tampering, plus any other penalty the court deems proper. So that's the three things that Wisconsin. Basically, Wisconsin wants Miami to come clean and say, hey, we cheated. Not that anything's going to happen to them if they admit that. I mean, it's almost like getting a speeding ticket and you don't want to go to court to fight it. You send your money in and you're admitting guilt or whatever. That's it. It goes on your record, sure, but it's no big deal as long as you don't have 15 speeding tickets like a Georgia football player. But it's just the fact that Wisconsin wants Miami to admit that, hey, yeah, we're guilty of that. But who's going to punish them?
Right?
I mean, what's the court going to do? Now the court could end up saying, okay, well, you damaged. They're looking for reputational harm, saying that they have been obviously, indicted in regards to.
Well, the problem for
to
Wisconsin
badmouth
is
them.
that, or the problem for Miami there is you proving that, because this all just falls into what college football recruiting has now become.
Yeah.
With
Very
the
much
transfer
so.
portal.
Yeah.
We hear about it all the time.
1-800-239-WJOX. Let's go to Miles, who's listening to us on the Jox 94.5 app there in the wonderful state of Mississippi. Hey, Miles.
Hello, all. Good morning.
Good morning, Miles.
First off, I've renamed my bathroom the transfer portal. That's how I feel about it.
That's good.
Second, Dan Less used an excellent word to describe the current state of college sports. He used the term untenable, and that's a perfect word to use. I'm going to throw this out there and see what you guys think. There's been a lot of news breaking about how schools are raising the revenue that they're going to share with the select number of athletes. Because it's not all the athletes, it's football, basketball from here. Have you seen all the stories, all the notices of how schools are increasing student fees to pay for the revenue sharing?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, those student activity fees in a lot of different schools are going up, and that's what's irritated a lot of people around college sports is, all of a sudden you get your bill and maybe your son or daughter, they don't care about the student life. Maybe they don't care about Alabama or Auburn football or their UAB football. They're there to get an education, and they spend more time in the library than they do in the arena or at the football field, and they're getting charged for it. And that's upsetting a lot of people because somehow these universities are trying to find a way in which they can get even more money to be able to pay for the transfer portal and NIL.
That's it. Absolutely. That's an excellent. Well put. I mean, I think South Carolina student fees are up to like $472. Like you said, Pat, even if you don't go to a ball game. And most students don't go. So, students are taking out loans to go to school, and you're going to make them – sorry, y'all, I've got Matt going. And you're going to make them pay $400 or $500 to pay a select few athletes, and they're on loans? That just seems wrong to me.
Yeah, I think a lot of the Power 4 schools, I think they could probably sneak it in. Like you just mentioned South Carolina. I'm more thinking of the non-Power 4 schools that do that a lot. I know that when UAB was bringing back their football program, and my son just graduated from UAB, I know that there were certain student fees that was involved that he asked me about, and I'm like, well, that's just help funding the athletics department. I mean, a lot of the non-Power 4 schools have to go that route if you want to have, a basketball team or whatever the case may be, or at least be competitive. That's what you're going to have to do.
That's amazing to me. Talk about, forgetting your mission. Gee whiz, man, it's like the students are working for the athletic department.
Yeah.
Take out a loan so I can pay for a select few athletes to make a lot of money.
Excellent point, Miles. I mean, that's something that as we continue to peel that onion back, you're going to find more and more that's going to be stuff that's going to make a lot of people irritated. And I think you just hit the nail on the head on that one.
Well, it could, this is just, like you say, this whole thing is untenable.
No, it's not. And listen, we identified this when this came to be a couple years ago. We knew good and well that there was no way. I mean, when you have schools like Alabama and Greg Byrne has been very open in regards to, hey, we do not have Fort Knox underneath Coleman Coliseum. Like, we just cannot continue to do this and to do that, and Auburn's in the same boat. We're not talking about Texas and Texas A&M here, and so Alabama and Auburn at some point, they're going to have to look at themselves in the mirror, and they're going to have to obviously point out what the most important aspect of their athletic department is.
Well, and then you add insult to injury, Miles, in the state of Georgia. Not only do the kids, let's just say they increase their student fees, even if they never go to a ball game, don't care about a sport, to go to NIL to pay some of these athletes, and then to realize that those athletes are not paying any state income tax on that money.
Oh, wow. That's an
it's
excellent
upside
point.
down.
Excellent. And on top of that, tuition is going up. Just simultaneously to all the revenue sharing. Let me ask y'all this. I hear people say athletes have not been getting paid. I disagree with that because to me, when I look at what they're receiving, I mean, the medical care, the room, board, unlimited meals, et cetera, stipend. I mean, that's several $100,000 in value. So it's one thing to say college players need to get paid more. It's something else to say they're not getting paid at all.
And I agree with you wholeheartedly. Unfortunately, now society, some aspects of society, they view that as a human right.
How many players on a football team are worth $500,000?
Oh. I guess it depends on coach, situation, and the need. But to your point, I agree. I think that's why a lot of these deals aren't publicized, because of the scrutiny that would be put on the guy that's not delivering, and fans realizing, wait a minute, we paid him how much? I would be.
Y'all, I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Miles.
Thanks, Miles.
Appreciate it very much. We are live at Social Taco. Come on by and see us. Great crowd as always. We'll be here until 2 o'clock. This is Jox. This is Three Man Front. 1-800-239-WJOX. We'd love to hear from you. We got a little time before our next guest, Nick Kelly from AL.com. He's going to join the show coming up at 12 noon. He had a interesting sit-down on the AL.com podcast with Kalen DeBoer, so we'll ask Nick about that. And also the latest on this Alabama recruiting and, of course, the transfer portal, always open at the University of Alabama.
Well, coming up tomorrow, we have a very special event we hope that you can be a part of with us here at Three Man Front. That is the Birmingham Squadron NBA Draft Party tomorrow night at 6 p.m. at the Edge in Homewood. All of us from Three Man Front will be there to take in the festivities alongside Squadron head coach TJ Saint. There's going to be food and drink specials from all of the Edge tenants. They have arcade card specials, a golf simulator. They're going to be giving away season tickets and other giveaways. So it's going to be a great night of fun as we watch the NBA draft together tomorrow night at 6 p.m. at the Edge in Homewood. Come join Three Man.
Did I hear correctly that Conrad's going to be putting on a little ball handling clinic?
A little exhibition.
Mm-hmm.
I had a brief stint with the Globetrotters, so I have some tools of the trade still.
Look forward to that. Yeah, come join us at the Edge tomorrow night.
Earlier today, Panini has signed on as the title sponsor of the Senior Bowl down in Mobile, so it's no longer the Hershey's Reese's Senior Bowl. No more.
Panini Bowl.
It is the Panini Senior Bowl.
Like the trading cards or the sandwiches?
The Trading Card Memorabilia Company. They have been a lower-level sponsor of the Senior Bowl since 2020. In January of this year, Panini announced an extension with the Senior Bowl, under which it became the game's official practice partner and trading card partner, a deal that also included branding on practice uniforms. Hershey's brand was the Senior Bowl's title sponsor since 2014, which I thought it was a great relationship that the company and the Senior Bowl had, but now Panini has stepped up and they will now be the title sponsor of the Senior Bowl.
Do you guys have a Panini maker in your home? Those were big at one time.
I would love to have one.
But it's one of those kitchen appliances, at least in our case, you use it 2-3 times and then you never use it again.
I don't have one.
I like a good panini.
I do too. They're good.
See, it's like we have a Dutch oven, but we never use it. Like it's the same kind of thing. It's like it's nice to have, but we just don't ever use it.
I was thinking of a different Dutch oven. Oh, that was something that Conrad did to get back at Paige. Oh.
Yeah, no, I was just talking about the actual Dutch oven.
The actual Dutch oven.
Like a real one for bread.
Yeah. All right. Text line is open, 205-834-9450. We start with Zach from the state of California. Are y'all capitalists? The market sets the value of the player, not some arbitrary authority. You're thinking of socialism. Trying to think what that is in response to the student fees, I guess, what we were talking about.
Is that just in terms of the whole NIL deal where you can't just pay any player X amount of dollars? It has to be approved to be legitimate?
I don't know. I need follow-up clarification from Zach, but thank you for texting and certainly thank you for listening. Posey says, I was with you on the Dutch oven, Landrum. LOL. That's exactly what I thought of. That's the only Dutch oven I think about.
Now I have to go to Urban Dictionary and Google what that is.
No, I'll tell you what it is. You don't have to go to Urban Dictionary.
Can you say it on the air?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when you're laying in bed with Paige, you have a little flatulence. You keep it trapped there under the sheets.
Oh, okay.
And then you waft the sheets.
I've heard of that before. Okay, yeah.
And Larry, you're saying that's not it? No, that's my version. I don't know what your twisted version is. Jimmy says, y'all call it what it is. It's socialism for the universities and capitalism for the students. This one coming in. The student fee is almost as bad as being required to buy a meal plan, even if you live 1 mile away with mom. Oh, and having to take canoeing or scuba to graduate.
I could not agree more. And, you know, the way UAB nails these freshmen now, back in the old days, if you lived in Jefferson and Shelby County, you did not have to live on campus as a freshman. Not no more. You have to live on campus as a freshman. Another way that they fleece the students and the parents for more money. And on top of that, you have to get a terrible meal plan with terrible options. And you have to pay it.
Back to the Wisconsin Sue and Miami case. What if the family member who informed Wisconsin was hoping to get more money out of them? The flip side is that family could be bitter for being left out off the money train. I'm so curious now. I am too. I want to know more about the unidentified relative that informed Wisconsin and alerted them to this going on.
The family mole.
The mole. Every family's got one. This one reads, when you play the game, it just makes it shake louder and affect your players' composure. Can't audible. Also, no change from one another. Going back to the EA Sports college football that Conrad was describing. EA Sports has come out with their list of toughest college football stadiums for the game, and Conrad was describing what makes a place such a tough environment to play in. Going back to Jordan-Hare and it not being super high up, says as tough as Jordan-Hare is to opponents, historically the past 2 seasons doesn't deserve a higher rating. Can't complain. WDE anyway. Thank you for the text. I agree with that. Texas A&M would be a scary place to play. 100,000 plus swaying. Can't read that one. Terrifying. Hashtag Mary Milkman.
Now,
Larry, did you send that in?
Yeah, he was texting over there.
Shouldn't use that word. Go ahead.
So when Texas A&M's on the road, how many Mary Milkman make the trip for a visiting game?
When I went to Memphis last year for the first round of March Madness and Nebraska played A&M, there were probably 3 or 4 of them there.
I think their rule is they have to have at least 3.
I think there were 3 of them when I went.
Were they like on the baseline? Were they?
They were on the baseline. I think I have a picture. I think I sent it to you guys. I was like, look who it is.
Okay, see, I didn't know this, so apparently they are not affiliated with the athletics department at all.
No, you don't say.
Like, it's essential. Well, I thought it was like, I don't know, they're like cheerleaders. Not that they're on scholarship, but,
Hey, welcome to College Station. First on the visit, let's you meet these guys.
I would have thought there would be an loose affiliation there, but no, they're just a group of students that do their thing.
Well, I think it's an elected role, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it's a very high honor,
Yeah.
from what I understand, for people that care about that kind of thing.
I think their skits are fun.
Some great writing.
Mm-hmm.
The comedic value is off the charts.
Do you think they're
Choreography's
dancing in the
always
fountain
on
today
point.
because it's nice and toasty, splashing around?
There they are. There's 2 of them. That was the best picture I could get because I was in the nosebleeds.
What are you talking about, Conrad? They're in Junction, Texas right now.
They're in Junction.
How did you get that picture if you were sitting in the upper deck? You must have went down there to take some pictures of them, didn't you?
I sure did.
Yeah, I know you did.
You did.
Well, and I had to take a selfie with Herbie. That's why.
Oh, that's why you were down there.
No, she was going to say hey to Trev, let's be honest.
Oh, yeah.
Someone asked, do you think if they pressure washed Jordan-Hare Stadium, EA Sports would up their ranking? It might be all the grit on that precast concrete, that stained precast concrete, that it's probably muzzling some of the noise. It's a good one. Jerry, not Conrad's uncle, Jerry from Hayden. What happened to the corporate sponsorship? Mercedes-Benz Bryant-Denny Stadium would raise some money. Also, Coach could donate to the NIL, being that he's still an employee. He's asking, could he donate to the NIL? Yeah, I guess. Technically, I don't know. If he's an employee, could he do that? There's no way that he would.
I think Nick Saban can do anything he wants.
Apparently not one thing.
What, save Alabama from Castellanos?
No, you'll see.
You'll see in less than a couple weeks.
Yeah, less than a couple of weeks.
I got you. Yeah, I know.
Jalen Milroe was so scared to play in Death Valley. He's still running.
Alabama has never been enamored by Death Valley in Baton Rouge.
It's
Ever.
just old pesky Jordan Hare. That's the one.
Oh, okay. So Zach has followed up with a clarification because he was asking, are y'all capitalists? He said, if you're a capitalist, then players should be able to make whatever schools or boosters will pay them. No, I agree with that. Don't like student fees? Don't go to college. That's capitalism. Agree. Nobody's making you go to college. I paid him. Pat paid him. Pat paid him for his kids. I don't know if Molly paid him. Okay, apparently she didn't pay him. Conrad paid him.
They paid me, Landrum.
Me and Pat paid him. Larry paid him. Thanks for the text, 205-834-9450. We'll continue to go there throughout the course of the program.
Some news coming out of the Pat McAfee show this morning. His weekly hit with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers says that this is probably going to be his final season, that he signed a one-year deal with Pittsburgh, and this will probably be it. He's had a great career.
Did he say who Brittany with an I is?
No.
That's really what we're looking for here.
No, he did not. Not that we all thought that he was going to play 2 or 3 more years, but this is really kind of the first time that he has actually mentioned those words of, that's why I signed a one-year deal. I'm pretty sure this is my last season, and that's why I did the one-year deal.
Well, that guarantees the question I think that you asked us on Pat Ponders a couple of weeks ago. Who will we hear more about this football season? Will it be Jordan
or Aaron Rodgers?
Bill Belichick squeeze or Aaron Rodgers? And I said I pray that it's Aaron Rodgers. If he puts that out there, it's going to be his last season. Then yeah.
Does he get a victory lap though? Like, do you think that other teams, pay homage to him if it's his final season, or we just?
Oh yeah, I think Soldier
Right,
Field
get rid of
will
it.
just go out of their way
Yeah, Aaron
to welcome
Rodgers.
him.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers Day.
Yeah.
There's no question about that. Water can find its way into your crawl space if you're a homeowner, bringing dangerous mold, mildew, and wood rot. But APS can protect your home's foundation, provide valuable storage space to the APS crawl space encapsulation system. It can stop water, keep the pests out while lowering your energy costs. Call APS today, 205-951-9717, or go to the website, alabamaprofessional.com.
We continue live here from Social Taco. We got to tell you about a upgraded menu item that they have. I got to stop eating them. All of that and more as Three-Man Front continues on Jox.
It is 11:47 on Jox 94.5. Thanks for tuning us in. This is Three Man Front. Pat, Landrum, Molly. We're live on site here at Social Taco. Conrad back at the home office, making sure that everything is hunky-dory. We will have Nick Kelly from AL.com joining the program in just a couple minutes. If you missed any of our interviews earlier on the program, we did not have Mike Griffith on today. Mike is on vacation this week. He and I were texting yesterday. He is out of pocket. He will be back on the program next week. We talked to Jeffrey Lee from Auburn Live on 3. He told us about what was going on with Auburn's recruiting. We also talked to Dan Lust, famed sports attorney, got his thoughts on some legal things that's going on in the world of college sports. And Nick Kelly will join us here at the top of the hour. So we're just talking about Bill Belichick and his girlfriend. So after Bill Belichick's disastrous CBS interview, he immediately sought advice from high-ranking North Carolina officials in formulating a response to the fallout. WRAL Television, under the Freedom of Information request, they obtained records, phone records, and emails from the University of North Carolina dealing with this situation after the CBS interview. Belichick wrote to university officials that the TV station got a hold of. It says, "I don't want to make a wrong move here." Belichick had agreed to do the interview to promote his new book, The Art of Winning, Lessons from a Life in Football. Hudson was depicted as interrupting and refusing to let Belichick answer a question about how they met. Now, in this correspondence between the university and Belichick, Belichick sketched out the outlines of a statement in an email to Beth Keith, a senior associate vice chancellor in the Office of University Communications. He wrote, "Jordan and I have both a personal and professional relationship. This is not a secret. Jordan assists me with my personal media, which is why I asked North Carolina to forward media requests to her. Jordan has zero involvement in the UNC football program beyond the degree that my personal media intersects with it." So that was Bill's email to North Carolina, and if that sounded familiar, that is basically what ended up in the press release from the university in regards to that interview. Belichick went on to say to the North Carolina officials that Jordan was present at the CBS interview because David Cass, who is the Simon & Schuster media representative, he was not available to be there. So he wanted Jordan to be there to give the representation and to make sure everything was going okay. Belichick also communicated with North Carolina that when the interview started, Hudson asked where she should sit off camera. Secretly, this is Belichick to the university. Secretly, CBS had a camera focused on Jordan where lead producer instructed her to sit, Belichick writes. So basically, he's pointing out that Jordan just said, "Hey, where should I sit?" And then CBS had already set up a camera in that particular angle and told her to sit there because they wanted to get her reaction when they started asking the personal questions to Bill Belichick. Very interesting. So North Carolina sent several versions of a public statement to Belichick, which included parts of what the coach wrote in the initial email. North Carolina's work wasn't done with the release of the statement. On April 30th, North Carolina Communications VP wrote to an associate director of issues management to help in drafting an email template to respond to the emails to disgruntled fans and alums. That request came from the UNC's chancellor's office. So the chancellor of North Carolina saw that this was budding into a real big problem because you had alums, you had other people sending nasty emails and phone messages to the chancellor's office that this is an embarrassment. Like, what is happening here? We have got to nip this in the bud.
Yeah, the CBS thing, that is fascinating that they chose to sit her there. But based on the question, and we talked about it when it came out, that is exactly the reaction that they were aiming for. They wanted that reaction. But it's even more telling, and 100% confirms it by the producer telling her to sit exactly and having that camera that's trained on her to get the instant reaction.
So one email to the Chancellor of North Carolina that he received was from a 1977 alumna who wrote that she had never felt compelled to write a letter to our leadership until now. I'm writing in response to the actions taken by Bill Belichick and his 24-year-old girlfriend.
Uh-oh.
The email continued to the chancellor. Never did I think North Carolina would become a laughing stock in the sports world because of his young girlfriend. End of quote. Now, Kevin Best, a senior director of media relations, offered changes to the potential statement that Belichick was going to send out. He wrote that based on the email from the alumna, this is more than just a CBS interview. We need to reference Jordan's role, perhaps referencing the personal and the professional relationship, kind of separating the two or intersecting. Belichick told media earlier this month that Hudson doesn't have any role in the North Carolina football program. There's been noise out there that a lot of different things. Our focus is day-to-day getting better, end of quote. So all those things from those emails that I just read to you ended up being in the public statement that Bill Belichick in North Carolina had released.
But this, given the initial reports, her involvement, her being in the building, and then others reporting to outlets how she had kind of come in and guess overstepped what they thought there should have been some boundaries. I think that maybe Belichick, his plan was that she was going to have that free reign, and maybe that was her thought too, and didn't think that they would get as much blowback as they got. But when you go out of your way to write a letter and you say this is the first time I've ever felt compelled to write the leadership, and then you put 24-year-old, something tells me that is definitely sticking to the craw of a lot of the wine and cheese crowd there in Chapel Hill, and it's not just the women.
Never did I think North Carolina would become a laughing stock in the sports world because of this young girlfriend.
Well, the NCAA became a laughing stock because they didn't penalize you in the academic fraud.
That is true. And of course, CBS, they could deny they did that with the camera. But if that is true, I mean, that kind of frames it in a different light in my personal opinion.
She does have a role though in the program. She's his rock.
His muse.
Think about it.
Isn't that what he called her?
He's having a tough day. He wants to reach out to her. I'm sure she's got great advice, all of her life experience that she's had.
Especially in P-Town.
In those 24 tender years and losing beauty pageants.
Ugh.
Contest.
When's Miss North Carolina?
Programs.
Can she do that?
Oh. Is she eligible?
Yeah.
Has she lived there long enough? Welcome back. We're live from Social Taco. A lot of our friends are here. You could be here as well. It is hotter than Hades outside, but inside it is a nice 67 degrees. It's cool up here in the Taco Terrace. And the chicken feathers we talk about all the time, and that's a go-to for Pat. It should be a go-to for anybody who comes here just to get started or if you want to make it a meal. But, Pat, they have done something to the chicken feathers, and the breading on it, a little bit different. It's all white meat chicken now,
Yep.
and then now a different seasoning.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Which they got a winner. The old chicken feathers were great. Who thought that you could upgrade them, but they've done that. SocialTaco.bar for more information. We're here every single Tuesday. Enjoy the half-off happy hour Monday through Friday, 3 to 6. And come and join us as we broadcast until 2 o'clock.
Joining us now on site, we'd like to drag him out of the AL.com high skyscraper in downtown Birmingham when he's covering Alabama sports. We'd like to bring him out amongst the people. I'm talking about Nick Kelly, who covers the Alabama
Nick.
Crimson Tide.
Hey guys, good to be here. I mean, we don't quite have this kind of spread just ready to go in the skyscrapers of downtown Birmingham, is if you want to call it that. So no, this is good. We did have a potluck last week, though.
Did you really?
We did.
What did you bring?
I cheated a little bit. I didn't cook myself, but
You made your wife do it.
No, I picked up pimento cheese and chicken salad from a local spot that's really good.
That's great. And you know what? And people appreciate that.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I didn't go pick up, just McDonald's or something. Like
No.
I got some quality local. No offense to McDonald's, but I got something nice and local that I think is pretty good. So
Well, and there's plenty of places around here, especially here in the South. They know how to absolutely own chicken salad. They can own pimento cheese. Why try to do it yourself at that point?
exactly, smarter not harder is the lesson from my fifth grade, sixth grade science teacher that stuck with me. So I try to adhere to that as much as I can.
All right, we will get into this Alabama football stuff in a minute, but I've got to ask you, what is your immediate reaction to Alabama right now being a 5 seed in the upcoming NCAA basketball tournament in 2026?
Man, it sounds like a big underachievement, frankly.
Yeah, fire him.
These
Get him.
days,
Go to the NBA, Nate.
like that hot seat, I mean, is cooking if Alabama's a 5 seed. No, I think a 5 seed would be fine. I mean, I think they'll be better than that, but I do think that they could work with a 5 seed.
So let me ask you this, because Landrum actually asked this question earlier, and it's a good conversation for both Alabama and an Auburn fan base, and I want to get your perspective. In Alabama basketball, is the Sweet 16 now, is that just an absolute, that's going to be the floor, like you've got to get to the Sweet 16, or is it an Elite 8 as much money as both Alabama and Auburn are now paying and expecting from their head basketball coaches?
I'd say Sweet 16 just because as long as you get there, I think a lot of basketball fans understand how fickle it can be in the tournament. So it's not just some ultimate failure if you don't make it to the Elite 8. But if Alabama doesn't make it to the Sweet 16, that's not a good year. I mean, that's just not, because Nate's made it, 4 times? Not in the Sweet 16 in 4 out of 6 years. So that's becoming the expectation. That's what happens when you raise the bar. Fans quickly forget what used to be, and now, if you don't make the Sweet 16, it's a bad year.
Well, and it's going to be the equivalent in college football. When you expand out to 16 teams, then you making the college football playoff, you're going to be one of those 16 of the best that we consider in America. In college baseball, it's the same way. You make it to a super regional, you're in the Sweet 16. So 16 seems to kind of be that sweet spot. I'm glad you agree with me.
It is, but to be frank, too, for Alabama,
Yeah.
I do know they're going to be disappointed if they're not getting to a Final Four, which sounds crazy, and maybe that sounds just pie-in-the-sky coach speak, but I really do think that just because they knocked on the door of it this year, they made it 2 years ago, that is the level that is needed to reach, or they need to reach for them to have a year that feels satisfactory, which is crazy to think about, but that's what Nate Oates has done.
What can you tell us about the final roster spot that Alabama has filled on the basketball team? I'm going to let you try to say his name.
Gosh, well, I had a feeling you were going to put me on the spot to say his name. They went and got.
That's why we have experts like you on the show.
That's where. Gosh, now you're putting me on the spot.
Sound it out, Nick.
I think let me see if I can find the right. Let me see if I can find the right spelling so I can make sure that I don't butcher it.
Is it easier than Iamaliaba?
I think so.
Or Tagovailoa.
But then again, I haven't. I didn't have to write Nico's name
That's
all
true.
the time or pronounce it. I mean, that's the thing. You guys, I have it easy. I get to spell out and write it, but when you guys are on radio all the time, you got to nail these pronunciations.
And that's always a crapshoot.
Yes.
Well, now I'm totally blank on his name, but
I'm sorry, I did not.
No, you're good. Why?
I'm glad that you said you guys have to nail these instead of you guys basically butcher these 90% of the time. But go ahead.
It's funny. Well, his first name's Collins. I do know that. But, yeah, trying to get his last name for you, it's Onyejika, which would be
Onijika.
I don't even want to try to pronounce it, but Collins.
Onijaka.
I'll get his name down. As it goes. But yeah,
outside of the fact that none of us know how to say his name, like what have you heard about him and that last roster spot? Like what role is he going to be able to fill?
Yeah, I mean it's kind of a development opportunity where you bring in a young guy who, I mean, he's got size. I think he's 6'10" or so, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And when you have a guy with that much size, you can work with that. You can't teach that. And so you develop someone like him because they have older guys that are taller. Like they have a Noah Williamson as a vet who's about 7 foot. You have Aiden Sherrill who's about 6'11", who's back for his second year. So if you got some really long dudes that you can kind of place ahead of him that he can learn from, that Collins can really learn from and just see how they do things, and you can kind of see what you have long term. Maybe he is that long-term prospect, or maybe he can help right away. I'll be curious to hear from Nate Oates whenever he talks next as to what they envision for him. But, yeah, you like a guy with that kind of length and that kind of size.
With revenue sharing and the house settlement coming down, I'm just curious from folks. We had Jeffrey Lee on earlier. I was asking him, has he already seen it start playing out from the Auburn perspective when it comes to either high school prospects or guys in the portal? And he said, yeah, it's already started kind of playing out. What about from the Alabama perspective, based on what you've seen, what you've heard since that settlement became final, in the structuring of things and maybe tactics or how they go about day-to-day business and trying to attract kids like that?
Yeah, I don't know that much has changed because Greg Byrne has been getting Alabama ready for this for a couple years. So it's not that, we got approved, now we got to hustle and figure this out. It's the plans have been in place, and really it is about, okay, yes, you have revenue sharing, so yes, you have to figure out how you manage that cap like the NFL does, and you have to, quarterback is probably going to get the most if he's a talented top guy of that rev share. But then it's also figuring out and pitching to guys, okay, here's how we can market you, here's the kind of deals we can line up for you, because if the clearinghouse works how it's intended to, that's going to be the way to supplement. Not just pure pay for play, or boosters give all this money to guys that wouldn't necessarily be getting all this extra cash through quote-unquote NIL. Because that's the reality, too. My sense that I've gotten talking to people, NFL rosters, for example, aren't getting – you don't have every single guy on that team getting some national endorsement deal. That's not how it necessarily works. You have that top percentage, whatever percentage it might be, of guys who are getting that maybe big money you're seeing in commercials that are national. And college rosters are going to be the same, where not every single guy on that 85-man roster is going to have the same marketability as a Ryan Williams. And that's okay. I mean, that's just how capitalism works to an extent. And so, but it is about, okay, in Alabama or any school, frankly, trying to find ways to market their players and pitch that, hey, we've lined up these deals for these guys in the past. We can do this for you to supplement your income. So it's not just, here's what you're getting in rev share. I hope that answers the question, but there's so many levels to it.
Yeah.
Nick Kelly joining us here on site at Social Taco. He'll join us for a couple of segments on the show. He likes to come hang out. He's already dived into the new menu item here at Social Taco.
Legit, right?
It's good stuff.
I mean, he was a little scary because I told him you need to try, and he thought I was like trying to lead him down a path of I don't know why anybody.
I don't know where he would ever get that idea.
I didn't know if it was mystery meat or something like that. That's where you just never know, because at first you didn't tell me what it was, and so I was like, what?
It was a test. It was to see how much you trusted me, Nick.
Well, clearly we still have work to do there.
Are we doing trust games now? Trust drills?
Yeah, during the break we're gonna let. I'm gonna stand behind him. He's gonna fall and see if I catch him. That's gonna be.
We'll see. I'm not sure if you're going to.
Not after that line.
No.
Good to see Jody from Trustful stopping by and seeing us. How about this crowd? Like, you've been here a few times, and I mean it's pretty impressive, is it not?
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's fun that they're regulars and folks that I've seen a few times, so I know you guys have surely.
People were applauding when they saw you come up the stairs.
I don't know about that. I mean, Landrum was leading that, but I don't know if people if that
No,
applauded.
everybody stopped what they were doing. They dropped their forks. They stopped their conversations, and they paid homage to the great one.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, speaking of the great one, you had an opportunity. You guys at AL.com, you guys do a podcast and video podcast, and you were able to sit down with Kalen DeBoer. What was his mood? You were around him, obviously, year one. We're getting ready for year two. How was his demeanor? Did you guys able to kind of dig a little bit and a little bit more honest? Like, just give us the 411 on the podcast at AL.com.
Yeah, I would say that Kalen definitely had a locked-in tone. It's a cliche, but I think it's the best way to phrase it. He was willing to have a little fun. We asked him some fun questions. It wasn't necessarily a 60 minutes interview of trying to drill down for all this hard-hitting information. I mean, we did ask some tougher questions too, but a lot of it was casual. And, he had a laugh or he had fun. It's not that he wasn't his usual, jovial self, but you could tell that he really wanted to talk about their mission and what they're doing to just stay focused. And so he seemed very focused, and I think that was the overall tone. I mean, he still is who he is, and that he's a friendly guy. I mean, that's just who he is, but you could tell he wanted to convey how focused he is, and he really doesn't seem like it.
Could you sense, and I guess this would be tough, but when it comes to Ryan Grubb and the familiarity, and he knows what he has done, we know how last year went, not that it was all on Nick Sheridan, to be sure, but could you sense maybe a little bit more underlying confidence? He's a tough guy to read.
Yeah, I mean, that's the hard thing. There's not necessarily the book that we have on Nick Saban or that we had on Nick Saban where you could just tell you had all these years to go by as to, okay, this is when he's feeling good about something, this is when he's upset about something. But, yeah, I think Kalen and Ryan's relationship, I mean, Ryan's very, very down to business, and he's a friendly guy, but he's also – he brings intensity. He really does. And Kalen, you can tell, in some ways it's just kind of like this is just what happens. It happened at Eastern Michigan, happened at Fresno, it happened at Washington where he brings Grubb in, and they just – it's kind of plug and play, and they know that it works. And so I think there's confidence in that. There's a quiet confidence in that. They trust each other, and I think that breeds just a lot of overall confidence.
How much regret do you think, though, that Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb have now that they did not aggressively pursue Tommy Castellanos, I can't even say his name right. I said it right, though, right?
I've heard more interviews lately in the last 24 hours. I said it like you just did.
Let's just say Tommy Castellanos, former BC quarterback.
Now they're saying Los at the end. Castellanos.
Yeah.
Man, you're really testing me today because I've only had to write it myself, so I haven't said it out loud. But I guess
Try it. It's fun.
Castellanos or Castellanos.
Well, because the double L, like in Spanish, you would pronounce it that way.
Yeah.
Right.
But the English, like when you Spanglish, if you will, it'd be Castellanos.
Yes. I tell you what we're going to do is when we come back with Nick Kelly, we're going to let Nick hear what Ira Schafel from warchant.com, he was on SiriusXM Radio this morning, and he gave his thoughts on the quarterback at Florida State and what he had to say and if it surprised him or not. Also, we'll ask Nick some questions about this upcoming season for the football team and the college football playoff. Nick Kelly from AL.com joining us live here at Social Taco. This is Jox.
12:17. Welcome back in. It's three-man front on a hot. Be careful out there. Hydrate. Tuesday, but we're inside in the Taco Terrace here at Social Taco. Broadcast until 2 o'clock, 10 to 2 every single Tuesday. Don't forget about half off happy hour, 3 to 6 Monday through Friday, and weekends. Brunch, the Bottomless Tapas brunch from 10 until 2:30 on Saturday, 10 to 2:30 on Sunday as well. Check it out, socialtaco.bar for more information. And our friend Nick Kelly joining us is customarily, this is the first time, Pat, that I've ever seen him eat when he has joined us.
Well, I mean, I twisted his arm. I said, you need to try these. These are great. And he can't put them down.
Peer pressure's hard.
I can't say whether Pat threatened me or not to eat it.
I know he did.
I'm not saying.
I know he
I'm
did.
not commenting either way.
Well, you don't have to.
All right, let's talk about threatening. Let's talk about Tommy Castellanos.
That was a transition.
Yes,
Yes,
and him threatening to absolutely decapitate the Alabama football program in week 1 of the college football season. I want you to hear, this is Ira Schafel, who known Ira for a very long time. He covers the Florida State Seminoles for warchant.com. He was on Sirius XM radio this morning, and they basically asked him, say, hey, what's up with the interview yesterday? Like, what in the world was Castellanos thinking? This is what Ira had to say. We'll get your thoughts.
That was the one where I thought, okay, Tommy's feeling himself at this point in the interview. He probably got over his skis a little bit in that one. But, again, it's we want athletes nowadays, for whatever reason, to be so sanitized in what they say and not say anything that might rile the other team. And I don't know, man. I think Alabama was probably very motivated. They're going to be very motivated coming into this game. They didn't have the best season in the world last year. If they love Kalen DeBoer, they're going to want to play it great for him because, their coaching staff's a little bit on the hot seat after 1 year. Even though it's only 1 year, it's Alabama. And so, I just think about sometimes these comments, people get so worried about bulletin board material. Division I athletes at this level, I think, are plenty motivated. I don't think they're at Alabama yesterday. I don't think they were doing extra wind sprints because Tommy Castellanos said something. But at the same time, yeah, I get it. I understand why fans don't like it, especially coming off a 2-10 season. It seems pretty tone deaf.
Just your take on that in regards to the fact that maybe Alabama, that this is Alabama, didn't really pay much attention, or they're not going to do extra wind sprints, so to speak. But how do you think that went over in that building when those comments started making its way around?
Honestly, they probably loved it, right? I mean, why not add extra motivation to the writer's point? Like, I don't think that turns it on from they just were going to take a stroll in there and just, oh, no, we got to play all of a sudden. Obviously, it's a season opener. They want to start strong. I don't think that one comment is going to make them go from 0 to 100. But if you were at, 80% motivated, that probably gets you to 100. So I think it is a boost.
It adds a little bit more, I think, for the college football fan.
Of course.
I'm sure we would never regurgitate these comments come game week when we get to the month of September, or I guess the game's played in September or late August. I don't have my schedule. But
to that point, sorry to interrupt, but when I tweeted out the quote, I think it had 100-plus bookmarks on it, which tells you people were – I don't think they were saving that to read for later because it was a pretty short article. They were saving it for the season to come back to. And to me, I mean, it's great for the fans. And I think it's great for college football imagine if we had a college football environment that was more like pro wrestling, where you had guys, or even boxers to an extent, where you had guys who were just willing to say, yeah, I'm the best in the country. Come at me kind of thing. How much fun would that be? And again, how much difference would it change if you need that motivation to get from just some low-level motivation of 0 to get you to 100, then you're probably not cut out for this. But it doesn't hurt having a little extra juice that you can actually put above the weight rack if you really wanted to.
Well, it's interesting because if you look at the Vegas point spread right now, it's 13.5. Alabama's almost a 2-touchdown favorite on the road in Tallahassee. If something weird happens and Tallahassee and the Seminoles pull the upset, how much would that, I guess, all these preseason magazines and these prognostications that even we've done on this show that says that Alabama is going to be knocking on the door to the college football playoff, how much would that potentially change your opinion if Florida State beats Alabama in week 1?
It's not a good start. I mean, it would really – lower expectations, but at the same time, it's one game. It is really tough when you start out with a loss. I mean, we've seen it with LSU, right? But now you don't have to be 11-1 to make the playoff.
Alabama has not lost an opening season game, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's 2003.
Wow.
I think that is the last time that Alabama has lost in week 1.
I mean, it would be a huge deal, and there would be a lot of very upset people. There would be some callers into your show, Feinbaum's show, just any show. People would want to – people would not be happy. I can tell you that.
If you gave Alabama fans a choice and you said, all right, early in the season, you're going to take care of business. You're going to wax Western Kentucky. You're going to wax Wisconsin on the road. You're going to play your best football this season against Georgia at home. Then, you're going to lose to Diego Pavi and Vandy on the road. You're going to be horrible against Norman, Oklahoma. You'd say, well, maybe we'll take a stumble if we're going to continually get better as the season goes on.
I think that was tough for a lot of people that, there were some high highs, but there were some low lows. And I think it was hard for people to forget the low lows because those just didn't happen much under Saban. Again, different era of college football. So I do not think that the Vandy of old was going to be beating Alabama last year. But Vandy of this year was able to add guys in the portal. And they were able to get a Diego Pavi. They were able to get some of the guys they did. So that makes a difference. But, I think it really – stung a lot of Alabama fans that they lost the way they did and kind of made you forget some of the losses or some of the big wins because they were sizable. And so I think, it does matter which games you win or lose. All records are not created equal. A 9-3 last year before going to the bowl game, if that 9-3 was you lost to Tennessee, LSU, and Georgia, I think some of the tenor of the conversation around Kalen DeBoer is very different. But at the same time, going into this season, because you can't change what happened in the past, I think if, say, they went 10-2 and they lost to Florida State and they lost to, I'll just pick my alma mater, Missouri, fans still might not be super sold. But if those two losses are, 10-2 is a good record, and I think a lot of fans would be very happy with that now. But if those two losses are Georgia and let's just say LSU, which I think are both very potential loss category games, I don't know if you're as upset per se.
In regards to the college football playoff, is this a situation where if he does not make to the college football playoff this year with Alabama, do you think there will be a set of fans out there that would absolutely be like, we need to go to change.org and we need to start a GoFundMe to get rid of Kalen DeBoer? Do you think if it's a situation of college football playoff or bust for him?
Yeah,
not to get fired in going into year 3. I'm just saying.
I don't think
perspective.
Yeah, I don't think it would happen, but I do think that fans would be calling for it, no doubt. Not only do I know because there were fans calling for it this past year. That's not the most rational crowd I think that we're talking about there, but I think anytime they fall short, you're going to have fans calling for that when there's not a track record of a benefit of the doubt that they could give him of, well, he's won a natty here.
Because it's around $60 million right now, correct?
Yeah, so I haven't checked of late, but it's high. Like they're not the buyout right now, especially with the new line item in the budget of $20.5 million. You're not paying that buyout unless you absolutely have to. In the same way that Billy Napier was kept around, and I still believe things could work out at Florida for Billy Napier, but that leash may have been shorter if not for all these incoming costs that these athletic departments have to pay. So I think it's a very different answer between would fans call for it and would it actually happen.
Because at the end of the day, with this new NFL attitude that we have to keep reminding ourselves doing this show every day, that this is the world of college football. It's not, let's go undefeated, let's only lose one game. If you lose multiple games, depending on who you lose to and at what part of the season and how the committee views the strength of schedule, your team could be in a situation like SMU was last year. It didn't matter you lose your conference championship. You're still going to the big dance. And I think at the end of the day, I think most people would be like, okay, I want to beat Auburn. I want to beat LSU. But if we lose those games, but we get the ultimate goal, which is going to the college football playoff, I think that would pacify people.
No doubt. And that's where I think that making the playoff barometer is probably smart most years. Like if you make the playoff, that's a good thing, and you had a good year. If you don't make the playoff, you probably fell short for a place like Alabama. Now, say for a Minnesota, which is where I'm from, the University of Minnesota, that it's probably not the same barometer. But I think for an Alabama, a Georgia, an Ohio State, any schools like that, if you're making the playoff, it's a success, and if you don't, it's a failure.
The big question, and everybody focuses on this, on the offensive side of the ball. We believe that there's an upgrade on the offensive line. Would you agree with that?
I think so.
Wide receiver, Isaiah Horton, the transfer coming in, would you say that group as a whole upgrade?
It may be the best position on the roster, so yeah.
Running back room?
I wouldn't say
Wash?
the needle is moved drastically, no.
Quarterback?
It could be better. There's so much to see.
That's
you just don't know.
For all the things that Jalen Milroe was able to create with his legs and his athleticism, he was able to make plays. But then we go back to the mistakes, the setbacks, the turnovers. What does Ty Simpson really need to be in this offense?
I think he needs to be solid. And if he can be solid, they'll cook. I really believe that. He doesn't have to be a Heisman winner. He doesn't have to be a future top 5 pick. But he can't make mistakes and do things that lose you games. But he doesn't have to be the sole guy, put everyone on his back, have the biggest shoulders in the team, strength of what he means to this team. They have enough guys around him. They just need a guy who makes smart decisions. And that's why following the spring, you could see it on that A-Day practice where he didn't make anything or do anything that was just stunning and you were like, oh my goodness, this is the next John Elway. But you also didn't feel like he made any glaring mistakes, or there wasn't any to the naked eye at least.
So you're telling me he doesn't have to be Tommy Castellanos?
In a lot of ways. I think Alabama would prefer if he not take a similar approach to speaking. So there's that. But no, I mean, Tommy Castellanos is going to have a big game for Florida State to have a shot. I think Ty Simpson just needs to take care of the football, needs to get the ball, the weapons, maneuver the offense. Like, I hate to use game manager as a label because we oversimplify it. You're either – I feel like when we talk about quarterbacks, it's either Heisman quality or game manager. There's a healthy medium between the two of, hey, this guy makes plays. He can make the throws he needs to, but he doesn't have to be a magician.
Nick Kelly will continue to be with us here at Social Taco. You can join us as well. We'll be here until 2 o'clock. This is Three-Man Front on Jox. 12:33 here on Jox. Welcome back in. This is Three-Man Front. Pat, Landrum, Molly, live on site here at Social Taco. Conrad back in the studios of Jox 94.5. Nick Kelly from AL.com will continue our conversation with Nick momentarily.
Well, insects, they have a place in this world. They have a place in nature, I agree, but they don't belong on your skin. They certainly don't belong in your home. Our friends at Stark Exterminators, a company that's been family-owned for over 61 years, they got you back. They came out to the Roberts house over 3 years ago, had ants coming into the bathroom, didn't know why, didn't exactly know where they were coming from. They addressed the problem. One of their professional and courteous technicians, Liam, who came out to the home, inspected it thoroughly, inside and out, and he said, look, we've addressed your current issues, but here's a couple of things you might want to keep an eye on that could arise down the road. Never been happier. Completely satisfied, and that's the thing about Stark Exterminators. 100% of your satisfaction as a customer is absolutely guaranteed. If you're a business owner, a homeowner, call Stark today for the free home or business pest inspection. It's really simple. 855-STARK-NOW. 855-STARK-NOW, or go to StarkExterminators.com. One of their professional and courteous team members will come out to the home, and you'll thank me for it. Once again, 855-STARK-NOW, or go to StarkExterminators.com. And as always, tell them Landrum from Jox and Three-Man Front sent you.
Nick Kelly from AL.com covers the Alabama Crimson Tide. He joins us here on site at Social Taco. So, Nick, I know that on a daily basis, I mean, you cover the Alabama football and basketball programs. You do not get into the minutia of the everyday this player, that player, in regards to who's on campus doing this and visiting from a commitment standpoint. But it is interesting that Alabama, over the course of the last couple of days, they've been able to wrangle guys that had been previously committed, not at Georgia, Ohio State, but to Illinois and to other schools that maybe kind of makes folks that follow recruiting go, that's pretty interesting. But I want to ask you about Courtney Morgan, the general manager of the Alabama football team. How important is it, the role now of a general manager, and especially what you're trying to do is balance a budget in regards to your salary cap, so to speak, for your football team, and going out and trying to get 4 or 5 stars or even 3 stars if you think you're going to be able to help the team?
Yeah, it's crucial. You got to have a good one. And I think Alabama does in Courtney, and I'll tell you why. So Courtney, for those who don't know, he played at Michigan. He was an offensive lineman there. He played a good amount of games, but he wasn't necessarily going to become a future NFL All-Pro. But that time, he will tell you, gave him his PhD in football because he was around guys such as Steve Hutchinson, a future NFL Hall of Fame offensive lineman. He was around Jake Long, future first overall pick. And then, oh, by the way, there's this guy named Tom Brady that was there around the same time. And I think Tom was a little bit older than Courtney. But Courtney saw what these guys looked like, and the list is longer than that, but there's just a few names that come to mind. But he saw what these guys looked like when they weren't yet superstars, or they weren't yet even big-name college football players. He saw what that kind of development and what those players looked like before they became big. And I think that's helped him as an evaluator now and be willing to say, hey, this guy looks similar to what greatness looks like before it's taken off. So evaluation is so key right now. Because, yeah, you are going to have limited resources to an extent, meaning because of a cap. And no matter what happens with extra NIL deals, it's not going to be as just, hey, you can spend as much money as you have as it was in the kind of pay-for-play NIL era. So you need guys on your staff who can evaluate talent well and who, yeah, okay, you get a couple 5 stars here, but you got to supplement that with 3 stars because having an entire roster of 5 stars is going to be really hard these days.
Nick, we were looking and I pulled it up. It was across the SEC, and it was some of these like Courtney Morgan type roles, whether you're the general manager, whatever that particular program titles it, and then support staff underneath. And we were looking at payrolls, and Texas A&M happened to be the one that we came across. And the general manager, the yearly compensation paled in comparison to what Courtney Morgan is making in Alabama. Now, definition of job responsibilities, titles, that can certainly vary from place to place. Besides player evaluations, what is kind of the all-encompassing role of a Courtney Morgan at Alabama?
Yeah, it's evolving to an extent just because of rev share coming in-house. Now, I do think that that budget is not going to just be managed by him. I mean, it's a department kind of thing. So you have the Greg Burns of the world who are involved in that at schools too, because they have to they're at the top of the department. So that doesn't just fall on a Courtney Morgan. But yeah, overseeing the entire development and putting together and of the roster and recruiting. Courtney goes out on the road, so he recruits on the road instead of having certain assistant coaches you put on the road instead. So it's a recruiting role. It's you got to manage how much these guys are getting and making sure that it all fits together and making sure you're getting talent. It's evaluating talent. And that's where I think Courtney's specialty is being able to watch maybe 5 plays of a guy and tell you if he fits or not. Like Courtney, I wrote a profile about him back in December before that Michigan ReliaQuest Bowl game, and he talked about coaches kind of give him a hard time because he only needs 5 plays sometimes to be able to evaluate, hey, this is one of my guys. And Courtney will say it's because he knows what it looks like based on his time at Michigan. He knows what he can tell pretty quick. And you almost have to have that snap judgment because you're looking at all these prospects. So, yeah, not to be evasive in the answer, but it does look like a lot of different things.
Well, and to your point, I've heard a current college basketball coach who has had a lot of success. He said the same thing that you just said, kind of going back to that. He can go to a gym. He can watch a kid playing high school basketball. And within about 5 minutes, he can tell you if he's a fit or not with that program, whether it's body language, whether it's all kinds of different things that he's looking for. So I find it interesting that that's kind of Courtney Morgan's thing.
Yeah, no doubt. He just really, not that I've spent hours around him, but he does really seem to be the kind of guy who enjoys evaluating guys, but he also doesn't need necessarily hours to do it. So it is fascinating because I think every talent evaluator has a different process. But yeah, you need a strong department more than ever to have guys who can evaluate well. And so that's where, of course, people read into stars because it helps us normalize just all these different people and data, and just it helps kind of give you an idea of where someone's at. But to me, if you can get a 3-star and he becomes a starter for you, that's a really good evaluation. If he becomes better than that, it's a fantastic evaluation. So, yeah, I think that it's just key having guys like that.
And also to that point, the transfer portal, especially the early one when everybody that's all the movement's happening, it's speed dating. So you don't have a week to evaluate a kid. A lot of times it's split second. Do we want him or not? Is the offer in? Let's make this happen. It is happening in real time just like that.
Yeah, and that's where, it's not just Courtney doing these evaluations, right? Yeah, either. You have to have people around you who can do it well, and having a robust staff, and so that's part of the budget too. Is you got to make sure you got to have enough people in the building to have the manpower to make all these evaluations.
Nick Kelly will join us for one more segment here on Three Man Front. Hope you'll join us here at Social Taco. More Three Man Front on Jox. Couple more minutes left with Nick Kelly from AL.com. Appreciate Nick hanging out with us in this 12 o'clock hour, talking a little football, Alabama version. Let's talk about the rest of the SEC. I know last time you were on, we were asking your thoughts on when we get together for our famous conclave in Atlanta as we get ready to vote for the SEC preseason that we never get right. But what the heck, it's talk radio. We like to talk about this stuff. How do you think Alabama's going to be, and what are going to be maybe the surprise team or two that might walk out of Atlanta and go, you know what, that team might be that surprise team in the SEC, kind of like a SMU was to the ACC last year?
Yeah, I mean, I still think Alabama at 3 is probably a good spot. My prediction at this point is 10-2. I think they lose one of the – you didn't ask for all this, but I'll give it to you anyway. I think they lose one of the, good games, if you will, against a tough opponent.
Georgia?
Like a Georgia.
Okay.
I think that's going to be a tough game to win in Athens. And they maybe lose a game they shouldn't. That's still a really good year of 10-2.
Now you're talking about like a Vandy-type loss?
Maybe. I just think that – I'm not saying Vandy. I just think
You saying Auburn?
No, it's a type loss.
I said their most dangerous trap game is Missouri. Because
you're a Mizzou grad.
Because you're a homer.
Look, the reason I say it, yes, I'm a Missouri grad. Doesn't mean I'm wrong. So the reason I say it is it's between they have Tennessee the next week, I believe, and then they have I think it's right after Vandy and Georgia. So you have some I think I have the schedule right. So basically, what they have a lot bigger games around that, more emotional games around that, and Missouri could be better than I think teams might think, and it's on the road. And that was a bad formula last year for Alabama playing against weaker opponents like Oklahoma and Vandy. So that, to me, is a more dangerous game potentially. But to answer your question, I still think Alabama finishes about third in the SEC. And I would probably put Texas and Georgia right now ahead of Alabama. We'll see if that holds true. I'll be surprised if Alabama's not top 3. I just think they have too much talent and just I cannot state enough how much Ryan Grubb is going to make a difference for this team. Like everyone I talk to, like the difference he makes is tangible, and he is that good. Like a lot of times things get overhyped this time of year. Everyone's talking big about this player, this new coach, whatever change you might have. But again, Ryan Grubb coaching and running this offense is a big deal. And I think it's going to make a difference. So I'm bullish on Alabama's chances, not just because I cover this team, but I think Alabama fans should feel a lot better than they did at the end of last year. To answer your question about a surprise team, that's a good question. I mean, could South Carolina qualify, I guess? I can't decide how I feel about South Carolina, but maybe the surprise team, I'll give you this one, Oklahoma. I don't know if they're surprised. I don't know how under the radar it needs to be. But I think when you bring John Mateer at quarterback over from Washington State with his offensive coordinator, Ben Arbuckle, right? I mean, when you bring a quarterback and OC together, that's a great combo, especially one that's been successful. They got other guys in the portal. So Oklahoma could be a sneaky team, and I would not be shocked if Oklahoma finishes in the top 5 in the SEC, and who knows, maybe even better. Maybe something crazy happens. That's my sleeper team.
I do agree with you on Ryan Grubb and the tangible difference he will make in this offense this year. People forget, but there is a reason why when he was the OC at Washington, he gets a raise, making him the highest paid coordinator in college football, and then gets another raise within the next 2 months. And you're doing that at Washington. This is not in the SEC, and this is prior to a House settlement. I think that speaks volumes.
100%, because I think before Alabama, Nick Saban tried to hire him. I believe, what was it, A&M that tried to hire him? So, yeah, he was highly sought after, and there's a reason for that. It wasn't just a one-year thing. I mean, he had a great year in 2022, and then they would go to the Natty the next year. And so, but not only that, just what he brings to the overall demeanor of the team, the toughness and intensity he brings. Those are cliches. Those are kind of abstract ideas, but I've just talked to enough people that I really believe that Ryan Grubb's going to make a huge difference for this team.
Not to mention the fact, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the people that I talked to in Tuscaloosa, they feel really, really good and confident about how that defense is going to be this year. And even if the offense is not to the level of what Ryan Grubb had in Seattle, they really believe that this type of defense is going to be able to shut down the opposition and put this team, even if they're not having a good day offensively, the defense could carry the day like it did many, many years ago under Nick Saban.
I would agree, and I would agree that they're going to be in great shape. I think they should be top 10 again, if not top 5. To me, it all comes down to what kind of pass rush do they have. How good is the pass rush? I think it's going to be better, but how much better? LT Overton, the king of getting pressures without sacks. And you don't always have to get sacks, but it is good to get one every so often. So I think that he's got to increase his sack count. He's got to continue to improve and evolve as a pass rusher, which I think he can. And then you also look at a Quay Russaw, who I think if he takes the next step, that'd be huge for this defense. And so the pieces are there, but to me it just all comes down to how good is this pass rush. But Kane Womack, I'm a big believer in him too, as to what he can do with this defense. I mean, I haven't thought about this until this moment, but this is the best coordinator duo since when? I mean, it's been a while, in my opinion. I mean, these two, I think, are going to be head coaches at some point in the near future, whether it's next year or a couple of years from now. But I think you have two future head coaches in Ryan Grubb and Kane Womack. So I think they've got a really good duo right now.
Were Lane Kiffin and Pruitt on the same – were they coordinators at the same time? All the coordinators at Alabama under Nick Saban, they all kind of run together.
Yeah, because every single year it was a new one.
Yeah.
And it was Nick Saban's defense, too. So he was, as Kevin Steele said right before he retired at the Rose Bowl, I believe, he said it doesn't really matter who's calling it because the real defense, and I'm paraphrasing here, but the real defensive coordinator was Nick Saban.
Yeah, because that was the infamous Lane Kiffin in the middle of the season. T-Rob's calling the defense. It's not Kevin Steele. It's T-Rob.
Doesn't that feel like 5 years ago almost?
It
like
certainly does.
Pre-Saban retirement, like Saban retirement, like all that stuff. At least for me, covering every part of it, and I'm sure for you guys, even in radio too. Like that couple month period of all that transition felt like at least half a year, if not more.
Yes.
And I'll just never forget that Monday after Lane Kiffin had said that, and someone brought it up to Nick Saban at your Monday press conference. That's with Nick Saban.
That's right.
Nick was really quick to shut it down pretty quick. In our remaining moments, you just gave us a surprise team, possibly from the Southeastern Conference. When it's all said and done, and this 12-team format this year for at least another year, how many SEC teams do you see punching their ticket to the CFP?
I haven't thought about it yet, so you're going to get a very spur-of-the-moment answer.
I've been putting you on the spot since you
Let's
sat
start
down.
with Missouri. So that's one.
Yeah, no, I don't think Missouri makes it. Me saying trap team definitely does not equate to playoff team. I would say Texas, Georgia, Alabama.
Okay, so Bama's in.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm gonna be stunned if Alabama doesn't make it.
Okay.
I truly mean that. And
there's the headline for our promo. Stunned if they don't make the college football playoff.
Who's that 4th team? Is it LSU?
I think it's LSU.
Okay.
I think that Brian Kelly's gonna make or break year, and they got a lot of talent. They use the portal. They got some dudes. And then also they have a quarterback who, in theory, should be pretty darn good. So I think LSU makes the playoff. Maybe there's a 5th team. I don't know. But I feel pretty confident there's going to be 4.
The unfortunate thing for Brian Kelly is they're going to be playing, in my opinion, and I've talked to coaches on the staff, the best Clemson team we have seen since one of those national championship Clemson teams.
With the opener, right?
Yes.
What is it with these LSU openers, man? Like the
retention that they have, the carryover, it's been pretty remarkable. And Dabo, he's gotten flack, and some of it has been deserved. But them being able to sell that culture to convince guys like Peter Woods, local product, played at Thompson, and others to stick around
anywhere in America to
for
play.
a lot more money.
Yep.
And selling them on that is going to be a team that will make a lot of noise this year.
And they have, I think, a really talented guy at the most important position in Kay Klubnik.
No doubt.
And that makes a big difference.
It certainly does.
Well, Nick, we appreciate, as always, you joining us a whole hour of Nick Kelly on this program. We appreciate it very much, kind of detailing what we anticipate.
Are you tired?
No, I'm fine, but if anyone listened the whole hour, like they deserve a shirt for having survived it, frankly.
Oh, come on.
Oh, give your – whatever. You win awards.
I'm just saying. I mean, I don't know if my wife could take an hour of me talking, so that's
all of our wives.
That's true. That's probably fair.
For those that have not been able to watch it yet, just tell everybody how they can go watch your sit-down with Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah, so we talked for about 30 minutes, and it's just on YouTube, ale.com, Alabama Crimson Tide, our YouTube page. A lot of good content there. We got a fantastic video team. We've got 4 or 5 people that they win Emmys. I mean, they just won an Emmy recently.
Yep.
So, I mean, the interview's good, but I would say subscribe to the YouTube channel just to check out just all the good stuff that they do video-wise.
That is Nick Kelly. You can follow his work at al.com. One more hour to go here at Social Taco. This is Three-Man Front on Jox. It is hour number 4, the fourth and final hour of three-man front on Jox. We're live at Social Taco. Pat, Molly, Landrum, Conrad with you until 2 o'clock. Appreciate Nick Kelly hanging out for a full hour. You can download the Three-Man Front podcast and listen to that in its entirety. Some great comments in regards to, to Ty Simpson, to a situation with, what's going to happen with the Alabama Crimson Tide as we're trying to get Dave
What is he
hooked up.
doing?
I don't know. FSU Dave is trying
Already
to
getting cold feet, huh, Dave?
Bring it on, Conrad.
Well, welcome to the show, FSU Dave. The only question I have: when is the last time you wrote a check your rear end couldn't cash?
Well, I don't know what you mean.
I'm just talking about your new quarterback.
Well, that's
second coming of Jameis Winston.
that kind of stuff happened all the time. And if you look back, probably the most famous incident that we had was the 1988 Seminole Rap, which I sent a copy to.
Yeah, I do
Pat
have that
of,
copy now.
with Dion and everybody. And we were number 1, they were number 2. Did the Seminole Rap before the season started, and we promptly lost 35-0. Season opener.
There
So
you go.
that was the last time that our school did that.
All right, so I just for the record, I want to point out that FSU Dave, he came over here in protest.
Yeah.
That he did not want to be a part of the show today.
No matter what happens, can we be friends at the end?
I
We
asked
always
him-
will be friends.
I asked him to come over here. He thought I was setting him up, and I took offense to that because why do I have this reputation that I set people up for failure?
When are you going to start wearing that badge proudly?
Well, when you asked Molly that question, she smiled and was too nice to reply that, yes, you do set people up.
Oh, he does it every day.
does.
He's
We
a
do.
master of his craft.
He's very good at it.
Yes.
All kidding aside, you texted into the show, just like you texted me, and you said, I really wish you guys had not seen that interview that he gave yesterday. So when you first saw it, what was the immediate reaction you had to yourself?
What are you doing? I mean, you haven't proven anything. And then when you went through it more, and I agreed with what Ira said, that about 25%, okay, I'm fine with about 25% of it. There's really no need to poke the bear, to be honest, either. But, he didn't tear up the ACC the last 2 years. I mean, he had a hell of a game against us 2 years ago and almost beat us in 23 when, we went undefeated. But he really didn't do anything. And then when he gave the comment about, he basically threw his old team, Boston College, under the bus when he's saying, now I've got real talent around me. And there's no need to do that. It wasn't a classy move. Now, O'Brien was trying to pigeonhole him, and O'Brien's had a history with that too. Look at DeAndre Hopkins with the Texans.
Right.
And O'Brien was trying to put the proverbial round peg in the square hole. And he was trying to make him into a pocket passer, and that's not what he is. I don't think he probably handled that as well as could have happened, as he said. But, we'll see. It's going to be interesting the end of August.
I'm glad you brought that up about what he had to say and taking a shot at his old team, and I'm a firm believer in how you leave is how you land. And that's not a good look. But you're in the know, in all seriousness, with folks down in Tallahassee, and you got a pretty good finger on the pulse of transfer portal, NIL deals. You got a range of what it took to get him to Tallahassee?
I really don't. I know that they went after him first. That Malzahn said that he wanted him.
Right.
That was the one that they did target big time. I mean, he wasn't starting at Central Florida and wanted to start somewhere, so he left. And he had, I think Rice Plumlee was there at that time. So, and he left. He does fit into our offense perfectly. The interesting thing is Deuce Robinson, whose father played for us both ways and played in the NFL. His dad has a scouting company and talent evaluation and training out in Arizona. And his father does the All-22 breakdowns for us. And he went through and broke down Castellanos' film, and he went nuts about him, that he loved him so much. And I wasn't quite as solid and sold on him, especially for the, quitting on your team look. I understand more now. But he would not have let Deuce come here to Florida State 2 years ago, and now he was all on board. And when Deuce came on his recruiting trip in the portal, Castellanos flew down from Boston to work out with him and be with him. So I'm going to trust his dad's judgment in evaluation and stuff a lot more than mine.
Yeah, I'm like Langstrom. The part about the comment, and we'll let Conrad comment on the Alabama part of the comment in a moment, but for me, when he says, I feel like I tore the ACC up by my damn self for the last 2 years, and now I'm with a squad, I hope people don't think Florida State is going to be the same team it was last year because we have weapons. People can't just sit back in zone coverage and watch me. I go back to the very first part of that statement. He did not tear up the ACC at all.
I said that.
And outside of a couple of games in which, and it's ironic because I remember in Chestnut Hill, he had a great game against Florida State in the undefeated season for the Seminoles. They gave Florida State everything they wanted in that football game because of him.
And more, no question. He had 300 yards passing, over 100 yards rushing. He almost beat us by himself. I mean, he was that good, but no, he did not tear up the league by any means. The Alabama comment was silly, that Saban's not coming walking in the door anytime soon. I mean, it just wasn't needed, but we'll see.
So, Conrad, in regards to your trip with you, Damian, FSU Dave, and Don in the RV, is that still on? What has happened with that? Have you had any
you need to ask Dave. I'm all hands on deck.
I'm waiting for your deposits. You guys haven't sent me deposits, so nothing is happening until that happens.
I was definitely under the impression that Dave was covering this for all of us. So.
Yeah, I'd like to help you out, Sunshine. That's not happening.
I will say this. For the people that are involved in this trip, Conrad will not be the last to give you his deposit.
And I respect that. I believe that.
I feel very confident out of that group I would be the first.
I wasn't going to say that, but
we'll have to track down Don somehow. And that could be a little shaky at best. Damian will be wearing who knows what college team shirt by that time anyway.
I'm sure you'll have converted him to Florida State.
When do the town folks start lighting up the torches around Mike Norvell's house? What does that season have to look like?
If we do not go to a semi-decent bowl game this year, because right now, I think after this year, the buyout will be down to about 43 from 60-something. And here's the other part that Pat brought up earlier, is that now schools have an extra $20.5 million that they have to come up with. So that's going to make it even tougher for guys like Kelly that may be in the hot seat and Baton Rouge and whoever. But because then you've got to come up with that much more. We just got something done with the state legislature. In Florida, it was illegal for the state universities to take money, let's say, from concessions, parking, whatever, and put it into the football program. But the state schools went to the legislature and they got that changed. So we, in essence, have borrowed $20 million sort of from ourselves until we get, because we're going to be getting an extra $18 to $20 million from the league from our lawsuit settlement. So we're going to be able to cover that. But all that, every school has to come up with that. So that's a big factor as well.
Talking to FSU Dave here on site, no one's a bigger FSU Seminole fan than FSU Dave, and he joins us every week here at Social Taco. And, of course, when that story came out yesterday, we immediately thought of FSU Dave. So in regards to the expectations you have on this football team this year with Castellanos, with a lot of good guys that you were able to get out of the transfer portal, which did not work out very well for you guys last year, where do you see them in the pecking order with the ACC?
Well, and I agree with you on the transfer portal last year.
Right.
Now, the year before, it was phenomenal. Mm-hmm. And this time he went with people that actually have real experience. We have 4 really tough games. Alabama and Miami at home, Clemson and Florida on the road. So, 8 and 4 should be the minimum. If you lost all 4 of those, some of the others are,
So 8 and 4 is the floor?
In my mind, yes.
What's the ceiling?
I mean, if you split those games.
Why are you laughing?
You could have 10. But, see, the problem is nobody knows, because here's what nobody knows, and here's what's also going to be tough for other teams to evaluate us. We got 6 new coaches. including both coordinators. So you have to look at tape from their school and one position change. We're going to have 10 new starters on offense, all of whom played at other schools, including many in the SEC. So you got to try to figure out their film. We're going to have 5 new starters on defense, all who've played elsewhere. So that's going to be very hard for people to evaluate in this offseason of what we're going to look like. We don't know.
Based on what you've seen from Gus Malzahn and those offenses, does that excite you as a fan?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to run the ball, obviously. And then, because with Gus, you run the ball. Our new running back, Sawchuk, who's coming in from Oklahoma, who had over 1,000 yards. And we got the number 2 running back in the country coming in, who we flipped from Georgia at the last minute. So we have a serious amount of talent there. We've got Squirrel Wright and from Tennessee, the wide receiver.
That's a huge pickup.
It is big, and then we've also got Deuce at the other wide receiver. So we're going to – and as you know, Landon, when you can run the ball, and there's no question we're going to be running the ball well, then passing is a lot simpler because then you do it off of that.
Yeah.
You run to set up the pass kind of thing, and this offense is going to fit Castellanos'
There's no doubt.
play skill very well.
Well, and the hang-up that Auburn fans and maybe Central Florida fans will have with Gus, while the offense can be really good, notorious for getting out to the fast starts, building a lead, making your fans feel really good at halftime, and then second half happens and it's a dud.
Well, I think it's fair to say that he has a lot of what we call brain fart calls that you kind of go like, where did that come from? Like you're going well, you're cruising down the field, and all of a sudden you try to get tricky or you try to do something else. That's what worries us as Florida State fans, that, you're going to go away from something that's really working.
My advice to you is when you go down with a group, you get the halftime lead. Just go ahead and say, hey, we got to go.
No, it's going to be fun. But, we're looking forward to the season. I mean, we're 59 days away now. And everybody up here on the Taco Terrace has been talking about it. And, we can't wait.
Just be honest. You were more upset about those comments yesterday because you were going to be showing up here today and you knew that everyone was going to be badgering you about those comments.
Absolutely, but I believe I have the Cal Ripken streak going for the most consecutive weeks coming here.
You do.
You do.
And
you absolutely do.
If I showed up every week last year, I told myself, look, if I came and took the beating that I took from those miserable losses to mediocre teams, I can show up after Tommy making a few comments.
Now listen.
Yeah, Molly and I commiserate a lot.
We do.
I will tell you this, and that's what impressed us about you last year, is that was a very difficult year after coming off of the season that you had the previous one, and losing to Georgia Tech to start things out overseas, and then you're like, okay. I mean, none of us saw what was going to happen on a 2-2.
Bless your heart. I can still remember how much hope you had, not only in your voice and the things that you said, but your eyes.
Well, and then when I heard Saban at game day before the Georgia Tech game in Ireland say this is a top 5 team in talent, I mean, he didn't forget how to judge talent. That, of course, that gets you excited. We get any fan of a team excited. But, I'm tempering it this year, and we'll go from there. But, no, I had to show up today because even though I knew this was coming, I had to.
But this was a good conversation.
Well, and you're evil, but we still love you, and it's okay.
He is. He is.
I resemble that comment.
Yes, you do.
Wow.
You're evil.
Wow.
He just straight out called me evil, man. Wow, that hurt, Dave.
Yeah, but your coworkers loved it.
Oh no, they absolutely.
We agree with you.
They'll put her on a poster.
Yeah.
Oh, look at there, Damien's here.
Yeah, there he is. Try to get that deposit from him right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. FSU Dave, all kidding aside, we love you.
Yeah,
and
man, thank you.
We appreciate you greatly, and it should be a lot of fun. I can't wait to watch all the videos.
Is it Lanos or Anos?
Yeah, Lanos or Giannis.
See, I've heard both ways from people at
I
Ward's.
heard Ira this morning.
Ira does the double L, but then Ira also does, he pronounces andouille sausage incorrectly.
What is it? How does he say that?
He says andouille as opposed to andouille.
Andouille.
So
Andouille.
So I don't know what to think of with how Ira does it. But yes, I heard his same video and stuff. And
he's calling Tommy touchdown.
Just,
Is it Thomas or Tom or Tommy?
He likes Thomas, from what I understand.
Thomas? Okay.
So
you got to earn that name.
Absolutely.
I just want to make sure that when Conrad besmirches him, he says the right name.
Well, there's no doubt that he will. But, Conrad, he doesn't mind if his facts aren't quite right when he comes out with a lot of stuff. So he's and I'm okay with that. I didn't strike back yesterday with some of his comments.
Do you notice, as bad as the Yankees have played the last 2 weeks, how he and Conrad have been more at odds with each other? It's kind of like the infighting with Yankee fans.
Yeah, they start pointing fingers at each other.
It's the Aaron Boone summertime law. Happens every year.
All right. Thanks, Dave. Great
My pleasure. Thank you.
Great to see you. That is FSU Dave joining us here on site. We are on site until 2 o'clock. Come on by and see us. Have a late lunch. Hang out with us till 2 o'clock. This is Three Man Front on Jox. Great song choice. I've been getting text messages from people. Cannot believe that FSU Dave took a shot at me like that, saying that I was evil.
You are evil.
Am I evil, BB? She's shaking her head yes. What the hell? What's going on?
See? Just right there. Right there. That's it.
Am I evil? Am I evil?
Yes, he is.
No, don't.
See, it's
Just a little.
yeah, and BB's trying to be nice.
Oh, okay.
Pat, just own it, wear it, man. Be
Okay.
proud of it.
All right.
Be that guy.
I guess I am.
Come and join us at Social Taco as we join together every single Tuesday from 10 to 2 here in the Taco Terrace. You got Fat Joe. He is here. We got a couple of Braves fans who I don't know who they are. I've never met them. I've never met every Braves fan, but they're wearing their gear. So last night's win over the Mets certainly helped. You got Spencer Strider on the bump tonight, and the Braves tried to make it 5 in a row, 5-0 on the season in the series versus the New York Metropolitans. The Braves are 6 games back when it comes to the wild card race. You can hear the Braves all season long right here on Jox and the Jox family of stations. Also, I want to tell you about our friends at Mandu. Now that we are officially in summer, some of you still got vacations planned. I know Pat, he's going to be heading down to Alabama's Gulf Coast very soon with his family, and so many of you outdoor activities, that means less clothes. You want to feel good about your body. You can do it with Mandu. And the thing about Mandu, it's efficient. It's efficient. You don't have to spend 6 hours in the gym to get results because of the electronic muscle stimulation fitness. You get into a suit, they put you through a 15-minute workout because of that technology that all is FDA approved. You're going to get results. Mandu in downtown Homewood right now, if you sign up through the 4th of July, you're going to get 10% off of your first month's membership. Mandu in downtown Homewood, MANDUU.com. Tell Paul and the gang that Landrum from Jox and Three Man Front sent you.
So this week, the NCAA leaders, they could advance new legislation that would significantly change the permissible sports wagering landscape in college. According to sources, the NCAA Division I Board of Directors, they voted 21-1 in April in favor of directing the D1 Council to adopt legislation to deregulate the prohibition on wagering on professional sports. A formal vote is expected to take place today or tomorrow. Currently, NCAA athletes and staff members are prohibited from wagering on professional sports that they are also sponsored by the NCAA. In other words, a college football player could not bet on the NFL, even if you were living in a state and you were above age. If the NCAA offers that sport, you could not bet on that from a professional standpoint. So NCAA athletes, if this passes, they would be permitted to bet on pro sports, but no betting on college sports, period. This is only professional sports. So we'll see if the NCAA follows through with that.
Yeah, maybe they'll let them. I know Vegas probably wouldn't have a – and you would be surprised, not you, Pat, I'm just saying people thinking that college football coaches, and maybe some, or if you coach a particular sport, and maybe your particular team, you would have some of that insider information. But for the most part, and we have a lot of coaches that are friends, they're no better at it than we are when it comes to gambling on sports.
Yeah.
In some cases, they're worse.
Yeah.
Because they've seen too much.
Hopefully, and I didn't get a chance to say something to FSU Dave and some others, but hopefully they've heard the promos that Conrad and Molly's been talking about the last week and a half, that we will be at Edge Shopping Center tomorrow night at 6:30. Come on by and see us. The NBA draft is tomorrow night. I was reading some information earlier this morning that as of right now, Janai Broom, looking at all the different mock drafts, I think I was looking at, I think about 7 or 8 of them. The highest at 37 to the second round of the Pistons, according to USA Today. The high end would be number 51, which would still be in the second round of the Clippers. But most everybody's got him in the low 40s, like 41, 43, 44, 47. So we'll see where Janai Broom ends up tomorrow night.
And that was kind of the projection even before he came back last year and some of the intel he got back. And I don't know, maybe Coach TJ Saint can tell us tomorrow when he joins the show about the different type of NBA player and what exactly the scouts are looking for, because it doesn't always translate from the college game to there. But Janai Broom, he got the most out of his opportunity starting his career there at Morehouse, and then transferring and talking to
a former administrator that was there at Morehouse when he was there, and he said it has just been remarkable from afar to watch his development, not only as a young man, now a man, but as a basketball player. It's been a really cool story, and there's so many of those cool stories. Unfortunately for guys like Zakai Ziegler, his name will not be called tomorrow night, but had an outstanding career with Tennessee.
Yeah, he sure did. And in a little local flair, obviously we'll be there tomorrow night celebrating with the Birmingham Squadron from the G League, and we will be talking about tomorrow night's draft and the Pelicans, who is the parent club of the Birmingham Squadron. They've got pick number 7 and number 23.
So what's give me the mock projections on who they take.
Seeing a lot of Trey Johnson at number 7 for the Pelicans.
All right.
After that, you're looking at Kalkbrenner from Creighton, which would be their 23rd pick.
Yeah.
Or the 23rd overall pick. It would be their 2nd pick in the first round.
That'd be a pretty good little pairing there.
Yeah, I'm seeing Knippel from Duke as their first pick. Jeremiah Fears, the Oklahoma guard, potentially as their number 1 pick. A lot of Trey Johnson.
Fears is good.
A lot of Trey Johnson, a lot of Fears. Yeah.
I mean, all of these guys are really good.
Yeah.
Trey Johnson.
Yeah. He can shoot.
Yeah, he can shoot. Fears is really, really good.
Yep. So join us tomorrow night there at the Edge and be right outside the wonderful doors of 18 South.
Yeah.
Patrick and his fine crowd, that they'll be there in attendance as well tomorrow night. So come on by and see us.
And it's the perfect venue if you haven't been there, because they have the AstroTurf there on the, I don't know what you would call it, the little area in between. What do we call that? I would be able to say it any other time, but I can't think of what that is right now. It's the congregating area inside of
the vestibule.
No, it's not the vestibule. You are evil, because now I almost had it, and now you said
because
vestibule.
Of vestibule, and I made you laugh.
Yeah. Anyways, we'll call it the Quad. They're inside of the Edge.
The Quad.
But they have the large projector screen. You got things to eat and drink that are around there, but you come out and enjoy just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And luckily at that time it'll be a little bit cooler.
Yes, absolutely.
Because we're going to be there.
Yes. Also want to remind everybody, and we'll do Pat Ponders coming up in a couple of minutes, and that's always sponsored by Courtesy GMC and Trustful. It's the summer sales event is going on right now, and the savings are hotter than ever. Right now in Trustful, you can get up to $15,000 off the luxurious Sierra Denali Ultimate, or you can save up to $11,000 off the rugged AT4X. It's the largest selection of those two type vehicles you're going to find anywhere in central Alabama. So you need to head to 459 off of exit 32, Edwards Lake Road, right next to Lowe's. You can't miss. Courtesy GMC, 9 acres of inventory, 30 certified pre-owned vehicles ready to move, all the brand new GMCs. Visit their online inventory, courtesybirmingham.com. Go see them in Trustful, Courtesy GMC.
Courtyard.
By Marriott.
They like you to pronounce it Marriott.
Oh, sorry.
But it looks like Marriott.
How about vestibule?
That sounds like something that connects to your heart.
Okay.
You got the questions ready? We're going to do
next?
next?
Vestibule is a small entrance area or passage between the outer door and the interior of a building.
Okay.
Often serving as a transition space or an airlock. So there was a transition space there with the AstroTurf and the screen.
I love your hands.
I did that for the YouTube folks.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And by the way, I'm evil.
Well, you're about to be called something else after that. We continue. Pat Ponders will try to answer questions next. 1:33, the party never stops. We are live at Social Taco until 2 o'clock here every single Tuesday. Come and join the fun, the family. You'll be a part of the three-man front Social Taco family. As the First Lady BB joining us now for a little Pat Ponders. She writes questions.
Hello.
And she adds a lot of flair and a lot of love to the group. How are you, BB?
I'm great.
And I don't think you're evil, by the way, BB.
I said
Just a little.
Just a little.
Just a little.
bit.
He's not going to let
Just a
that
little
go.
bit.
He is.
You've got alligators.
He is fixating
I'm concerned
on you.
about that.
It is.
That's very disturbing.
Why is that disturbing?
It's just not normal.
That's not the only exotic pets that he has there, but
Oh, really?
I can't tell you what the other ones are.
Is it
People
that-
would jump to conclusions if I told you.
He's got that three-legged monkey, doesn't he?
No. Well,
Talking about the pole monkey?
did you know he breeds gerbils?
Oh.
No, that would be you.
He breeds them. Yep.
That would be you, not I.
Oh, takes me back to the Meet the Parents. Anyways, all right, it is time for 5 questions asked by Pat and BB. We try to answer them. This is what we call Pat Ponders.
What you're thinking? Tell me what's on your mind.
It's time for Pat Ponders.
Brought to you each and every day by Courtesy GMC and Trustful. Visit their online inventory at courtesybirmingham.com. All right, question number 1. On this date in 1894, the decision was made to begin the modern Olympics every 4 years. Now, back in 1994, the Summer and Winter Olympics were separated on a 2-year cycle. Do you like the current setup, or would you like to see both the Summer and Winter Olympics in the same year, but every 2 years as opposed to 4?
Personally, I like the current setup where you have one or the other.
Alternate every 2 years?
Alternate every 2 years, just because I like the variety more, and I feel like, I don't know, like, I like the Summer Olympics, but when it's time for the winter, I'm excited for winter, and then the same thing after winter, I'm like, oh, I'm ready for summer. Like, there's an excitement to it, and I feel like I might not get that same excitement if they were both the same year.
Well, yeah, and to your point, I like the way it is now and the alternating because I want the Olympics when it comes around, it feels like something special.
Yeah, in that.
Something we don't get all the time. You can pick something else that happens on that frequency or at that frequency. So yeah, keep it the same.
I agree. I like the format it is now. I'm trying to remember what time of year the two end up falling because I think that makes a difference too.
You know, it's interesting because a couple back during the Sydney Olympics, it was in September because obviously their summer,
It's our winter.
right?
Yeah.
So it was later in the year, but typically it's always right smack dab in the middle for us, either July or early part of August for summer.
For summer,
right?
But that
the
can
winter
fluctuate in the winter one, which that's the thing. The only thing I would like to see it be at a structured. You know, it's always this month or it's always this month.
Yeah.
But I like the every 2 year thing.
How about you, Conrad?
Yeah, I'm similar in the thought of I like it being more special, and if you have it every couple of years, maybe that takes away some of it, and having them both in the same year. I like that they're separate, and I like that they're 4 years apart. So, yeah, make them feel special, make us miss them while they're gone.
All right, question number 2. Also on this date, back in 1922, the American Professional Football Association changed its name to the NFL. If you were to start your own football league to rival the NFL, what would you call it?
The SEC, Pat.
Woo! That's good. That was witty. That was good.
Good one.
Drop your microphone.
Yeah, that was good.
Just walk.
Well, I think it's going to. It could change based on the fact that we're now going international with a lot of things, and I truly think they're going to end up with international teams. That it will be the International Football League.
Okay, that's good.
IFL, I like that.
Or like the Global Football League. I like your train of thought too.
Go ahead, Landrum. Say you want to bring back the Alliance of American Football.
That was too tough. The AAF.
AAFL.
I did like the World League of American Football.
That was good.
You call it the World League.
I like the USFL.
I did
USFL is good.
Yeah.
International Football League. That was actually what I was thinking of. IFL.
I think. What do you think? A couple of years, we're probably going to see teams based in other countries. Easy.
Maybe other planets.
Could
Ooh,
be.
aliens.
The Mars League.
Yeah.
There you go.
Right?
Question number 3. Have you ever considered or picked up a hitchhiker?
No.
Neither?
Neither.
On the advice of my attorney, I can't answer that.
Absolutely not. That was my biggest fear.
No, that surprises me.
Well, why? I mean, honestly.
No, I was just taking a shot because you took a shot at me.
I got stuck in this truck stop one time, and it's dangerous in truck stops because anybody will pick you up there.
Especially the parking lots.
What I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
I did it out in Tahoe.
You picked someone up.
Well, hear me out. So we were told
or you pick someone
a
up
lot
at
of
the,
times, you've got these kids will go out there and they'll work for a semester, whatever, and they said, by the way, if you see someone and you can't always tell a book by its cover, but if you see someone, it's probably one of these college kids, and they're looking for a lift into town so they can go to work. Mm-hmm. And while we were out there, I did do that. But the whole time I was thinking,
you're dead.
This is probably going to be
I
the
think
fatal mistake.
If you're looking in today's times, if we're talking 40, 50 years ago, it was real different. I mean, if you're in like where I grew up in the country and somebody was walking along the road and darn well they live on a farm that's 5 miles away and they had some kind of equipment breakdown. And it's just, we're looking at times now it's not safe for anybody.
I'm not going to even ask. There's no way you ever picked up a hitchhiker.
How about you, Conrad?
No way in hell I would ever pick up a hitchhiker, but I did actually hitchhike one time in high school because me and my friends.
Way to pay it forward, Conrad.
Well, yeah. Well, we got lost in the woods.
Near a cave?
No, we ended up getting lost in the woods, and we ended up on some random road in Blount County. And somebody was nice enough to scoop us up and drive us back to my buddy's house. It was only like a 5 or 10 minute drive.
Did he have all his teeth?
I'm trying to remember. I don't know. We read in the bed of his truck, so probably not, if I'm being honest. But he was nice.
Oh, look, this guy plays the banjo.
Up there, you don't have to worry about people, so a little more trustworthy up there.
And just to think, Wimp Sanderson's told us the story numerous times of him as a kid hitchhiking from North Alabama, from Florence, all the way up to Cleveland, Ohio.
I've picked up more dogs on the road than I have human beings.
Yes.
All right, next question. If the CIA came to you and asked you to spy for our country, would you do it?
Absolutely, 110%.
Yeah.
Call me today.
That would be so cool.
So you'd do it?
Oh, yeah, that'd be cool.
No, I would not because I don't trust the CIA as far as I could throw anyone from the CIA. No, I think they're an evil organization.
I'd be like,
there's that word
sneaking.
again. Evil.
Evil.
I'm sorry.
I'd be sneaking around.
CIA killed John F. Kennedy. I'm just going to
Well, they weren't the only ones. There were other.
Mossad was in on it too.
Well,
yeah.
There's some other states that were involved.
There's so much.
Other organizations. This was a question that came up the other day. It was, what is a conspiracy theory or something that you believe?
Right.
And it was not just the CIA.
No, it wasn't.
No.
But I don't want to even know one fraction of what they have done worldwide that is totally.
No, but I would like to be the man of 1,000 faces.
Maxwell Smart.
Yeah. I knew someone who was recruited by the CIA.
With the shoe phone.
Huh.
Yep. They have recruiters that go to college campuses.
Yeah.
And it was a psychology major. If you can
really
imagine
cool.
that.
Do it.
Yep. And as a matter of fact, she turned it down. But here's what's interesting: 10 years later, she was in another profession. Got a call from the same recruiter, said, "Hey, I'm going to ask again. So they definitely have a certain type.
Well, you have to give up your firstborn and everything else in your life if you're going to work for somebody like that.
Not if you're Mr. and Mrs. Smith, right?
What about you, Conrad? Yay or nay?
As cool as it sounds and as it would be at times, I'm going to say no, and the sole reason is because if your cover got blown for any reason, not to be too depressing, but you would have the most miserable death imaginable if you're spying for another country and then you're going to be tortured and all of this.
No, you got to have the pill in your pocket, dude.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm not no,
You're
I'm
not getting it out of me.
Yep, not going through that. Nope.
I would absolutely do it for our country.
All right, final question comes courtesy of BB.
I would want to be trained by Masai, though.
Yeah.
They do it the best.
All right, we're all baseball fans and have watched as the facial hair, length of hair, and other player-centric styles have changed over the years. Most players also sport some type of necklace. Some are gold or silver, which may have them small to oversized medallions, or they have various thickness and braided styles. They run the bases with these embellishments bouncing off their chins and faces, and when in the batter's box, they constantly must put the jewelry inside their uniform. Should Major League Baseball regulate what type of jewelry is acceptable, or should this be banned altogether?
Regulate, I guess, what's acceptable. If they're wearing something that's offensive, I'm not talking about if it's a cross or I'm going to throw something else out. But if it's offensive, yes, obviously, don't let them wear it because you got kids and other folks that don't want to see that if they're watching the game on TV. Yeah, let them. It's part of their personalities.
That's how you grow the game with the kids. You got to let them do it.
It does frustrate me when you see somebody that's got a lot of that going on and they're hitting $180.
Yeah, that is annoying.
I don't think you should be able to wear it.
You got to hit over 240 to wear jewelry.
Something.
See,
because then at that point it's like, is that affecting his
right? I think it should be regulated. Like, I think they should be able to wear most jewelry because it is a form of expression. But I think in terms of like how much, maybe how heavy, how long, like certain like earrings or piercings. Because all I think about every time I watch the NBA, the NFL, even Major League Baseball is like, does that not hurt? Because I don't wear earrings because the backing, when I wear headphones, just digs into my head. And I never wear jewelry because it gets in the way. I love jewelry, but like for work and stuff, I just prefer not to wear it. So I feel like that would almost be, depending on what it is, a distraction.
No, that's good. Same with my navel ring.
Okay.
Only wear it at the beach.
Yeah. But I think about that all the time, especially when athletes have like a nose ring. Like, when you get hit, does that not hurt?
That's how I feel about having dreadlocks. Like, they look cool,
Yeah.
but if you get that tugged on, someone trying to tackle you,
That's gotta hurt.
Not no.
And for me, like, a piece of jewelry isn't worth that. But again, that's just my personal. I'm not saying they shouldn't be able to wear it because it's a way to express yourself unless it's offensive.
Right.
But I don't know. I guess personally, I wouldn't do it.
I think that, well, I see this in my grandkids now. I mean, they're playing competitive baseball, and they all got the braided stuff, and even they're starting to wear the jewelry. And I agree that it's a form of expression and should be allowed, and that's cool. But when they've got these like 4-inch by 4-inch medallions hanging off of them, and they're constantly having to move the stuff off their chest, I think there's a time and place for everything. It's like, wear your medallion when you're out signing autographs and stuff, but if you're on the field, why not just go with the braid? Just go with the braided necklace. Call it good. That's not going to be the end of the world for you not to have metal stuff on. And some of them, we know they're actually just, instead of the jewelry, they just tattoo their necks.
Yeah.
That's one way of doing it. But I think it can be excessive. I don't want to stop it, but at the same time, I think it can get overdone.
Yeah.
I do find myself just wondering when I see a Major League Baseball player wearing some of that, how much did that cost? Because it's real.
I promise you don't want to know, Landrum.
It's real, and why would you wear that? But I guess if you just signed a $240 million contract,
Right.
then what's the big
Deion
deal if you're
Sanders still wear all
$200,000
that
necklace?
stuff, even though he's coaching? Doesn't he still wear a bunch of medallion? I mean, we're talking baseball, but
I'll be honest with you, baby. I've not really.
paid attention.
It's like the more diamonds you can encrust in it, and the more flashy you can get. And there again, to me, that's just ego. You don't need to be doing that in ball field. To your point, Landrum, bring up your batting average.
Yeah.
What do you think about the teeth? You like it when people put diamonds in their teeth?
God.
You think that's cool?
No. That's really sad.
I think it's really attractive on a woman.
All right, that's today's Pat Ponders, brought to you by Courtesy GMC in Trussville. Go by and see them. Great people. Talking about Drew Lawley, Josh Gargas, all the fine folks at Courtesy GMC off of exit 32 I-459. We will wrap things up here from Social Taco. This is Jox 94.5. It's been a great day here at Social Taco. Appreciate everybody stopping by and seeing us. We're here each and every Tuesday from 10 until 2 o'clock. Quickly, I just saw this quote from the old ball coach, Steve Spurrier. He was talking about the University of Texas and the fact that everybody's been predicting them to get to the college football playoff and Arch Manning. This is Steve Spurrier's direct quote. They've got Arch Manning already winning the Heisman, too. My question is, if he was as good, how come they let Quinn Ewers play all the time last year? End of quote.
That's a great question.
There's a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure on Arch Manning.
The old ball coach. Love him.
Absolutely right. You know, something we hadn't talked a whole lot about, but we have former first responders that are here with us today, but also our buddy Walt. We got the police and fire games coming to Birmingham. You got the opening ceremonies coming up on Friday at Legacy Arena. And so it's not just police and fire. And I know that Gerald told us about it last week, that they're going to have games at Rickwood and playing baseball. But there's a lot of different events that these heroes are going to be competing in here in our great city. And they're from all over the world. So if you get a chance, or if I get a chance, I'm certainly going to try to get down there. But you got opening ceremonies coming up this Friday at Legacy Arena.
No, that will be a lot of fun. Appreciate everybody joining us today on the show. We started in hour number 1. If you missed Jeffrey Lee from Auburn Live, part of the On3 Network, he joined the show. Told everybody kind of pump the brakes a little bit, that Auburn is okay. Last year at this time, they were basically kind of in the same situation from a football recruiting standpoint. You can go back and listen to his full comments on the Three Man Front podcast. Also, Dan Lust joined the show, one of the most famous sports attorneys in the United States. He joined us talking about the ongoing litigation in regards to Wisconsin suing the University of Miami over a transfer portal player. That was an interesting conversation. And we had a full hour with Nick Kelly from AL.com talking about the Alabama football team.
Yeah, and a lot of text coming in on the text lines. We've been talking about Florida State's quarterback and his comments. We do have clarification. This is Alex from Waycross, Georgia, listening on the Jox app. He says, I'm from where Thomas Castellanos is from. My father-in-law actually coached him his 9th grade year of basketball. You pronounce his last name with the 2 L's. Sounds like Castellawn, like you mow your lawn. So Castellanos. Thank you, Alex, for listening there on the Jox
so the
app.
way that Ira Chaffel was saying it, that's the correct way to say it.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
So it's not like Nick Castellanos.
No, it is not.
And I guess that's why I was saying it the way I was.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And one more. Listener questions not asked every day. Does Don ever shut up? Does Pat ever just watch Netflix with his wife? Does Conrad ever try to act like a man?
Well, the question that involved me, I did watch a show with my wife on Netflix 2 days ago.
Guess what's out tonight? Poop Cruise, the documentary from 2013, the Carnival Cruise Line.
Oh!
Poop Cruise.
Sweet.
I got the Cubs and Cardinals
Well,
tonight,
if things go bad for the
the
Braves,
Braves.
I'm going Poop Cruise. That could always happen. God is great. Paul Feinbaum is next.